Chapter 119. Yin Luofeng, His Imperial Majesty has ordered you to bring your servant girl to the palace to see His Imperial Majesty. You must leave immediately and do not stop. The eunuch's voice was as sharp as a needle as he coldly ordered. Servant girl? Master Dongfeng turned his puzzled gaze towards Yin Luofeng and furrowed his brows. What did your servant girl do? Why did he order you to bring your servant girl to see His Imperial Majesty? Yin Luofeng shrugged his shoulders. The servant girl he was talking about is Ning Xin. Ning Xin? Servant girl? Master Dongfeng was completely dumbfounded. A member of the imperial family had actually called Ning Xin a servant girl? Even though he still does not know Ning Xion's identity, he could tell from Elder Rong's attitude towards Elder Ning. Yet these people had actually called her a servant girl? Where did they get their sense of superiority to treat such a dignified and beautiful young girl as a servant girl? Yin Luofeng, what are you standing there for? Come with me to see His Imperial Majesty. The eunuch said coldly when he saw that Yin Luofeng was unmoved. Master Dongfeng's face sank. Feng since the Emperor has ordered you to go, I will accompany you. With me here, I like to see who can do anything to you. Hearing Yin Luofeng's words, the eunuch's face filled with obvious disdain. Everything under the heavens was yellow soil. Yin Luofeng was only a general with an empty title. What right did he have to go against His Imperial Majesty? Yin Luofeng and her servant girl had committed such a cruel act. His Imperial Majesty would not forgive her so easily. I'll go with you. Suddenly, a low, hoarse voice sounded from behind her. Hearing the man's voice, Yin Luofeng slowly turned around, and her gaze fell upon the man. The man's eyes were cold and grim as his dark eyes stared deeply at her. His paralyzed face showed no expression, but at this moment, Yin Luofeng could feel the worry in his heart. All right. She curled the corners of her lips into a demonic smile. Her voice was as languid as ever, but it undoubtedly revealed her trust in the man. Based on Yin Luofeng's current abilities, she did not fear the imperial family. But without a doubt, if Yin Xiao followed her, she would feel very safe. Wait for me. At this moment, a crisp voice sounded from the side. Yin Luofeng turned around and saw Ning Xin quickly running toward her. Her pretty features carried a gentle smile as she said, Xiao Feng, I was the one who started this. I'll go with you and meet this so-called emperor. I'll also take a look at how the members of the imperial family are going to bully you. Undeniably, Yin Luofeng now held a very important place in Ning Xion's heart, second only to her most respected grandfather. Hence, she would not allow anyone to bully Yin Luofeng, especially in front of Ning Xin. What are you? When the eunuch saw that Ning Xin was looking down on the royal family, he flew into a rage. How dare you disrespect His Majesty? It's true that the dog is shaped by its master. Ning Xin could not be bothered to argue with him and only glanced at him indifferently. She then turned towards Yin Luofeng. Initially, I had wanted to wait for my grandfather to return and let him handle this matter. I never thought that the members of the imperial family would come knocking on our door so soon. Xiao Feng, don't worry. When my grandfather left, I promised him that I would protect you. When the eunuch saw that Ning Xin was ignoring him, his expression turned even uglier. What are you still blabbering about? His Imperial Majesty is already waiting for you in the palace. Are you going to take responsibility for any delays? If you don't leave, I'll have you all tied up. Chapter 120. Yin Luofeng finally reacted to the eunuch's words. Her black eyes glanced devilishly at him, and her peerlessly beautiful face lifted into a demonic and languid smile. However, this lazy glance caused the eunuch's body to tremble involuntarily, as if a bone-piercing chill had spread from his heart. This trash could actually make people feel such intense fear? Perhaps it was to calm the panic in his heart, but the eunuch's expression turned cold, and he ordered icily, Guards, bring these people into the palace. I can walk by myself. Yin Luofeng glanced at the guard who was walking towards her and raised his brows. Yin Xiao, if anyone dares to touch me, kill without mercy. Her voice was arrogant and unruly, filled with an evil and awe-inspiring aura, and it carried a domineering aura that looked down on the people of the world. Yin Xiao did not say anything, silently standing by Yun Luofeng's side. Killing intent flashed in his cold black eyes, and his black robes fluttered despite the lack of wind. The powerful aura radiating from his body forced the guards, who wanted to approach Yin Luofeng, to take a few steps back as shock filled their faces. Humph! The eunuch humphed. Yin Luofeng, wait until we reach the imperial palace. Let's see if you still dare to be so insolent. As the saying goes, a wise man submits to circumstances. This eunuch wasn't stupid. It was impossible for him not to feel the killing intent from Yin Zhao's body. If they really touched Yin Luofeng, he believed that this man would definitely start a massacre. Sure enough, there wasn't a single good person in the general's estate. From General Yun to the servant girls and guards, they were all a group of people who despised the imperial power. People like them should all be killed. Grandfather, let's enter the palace and see how the emperor handles this matter. Yin Luofeng lowered his eyes and smiled faintly. The smile on his lips was filled with evil. All right. Yin Luo nodded and turned to look at the eunuch, saying coldly, Why aren't you leading the way? Who will be responsible for any delays? These words had come from a eunuch's mouth, but now the old man had returned them to him. The eunuch snorted coldly again. He flicked the horsetail whisk in his hand and walked out of the courtyard. At this moment, the general's mansion was surrounded so tightly that not even a drop of water could trickle through. When these people saw the group of people walking out of the general's mansion, surrounded by a group of guards, they started to discuss among themselves. Obviously, they were all trying to guess what crime General Yin Luo had committed to be forced into the palace by a group of guards. Wasn't that right? Although these guards did not touch the Yun family members again, their actions of surrounding the Yun family members was no different from escorting them into the palace. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that the Yun family had committed a crime. Amidst the noisy crowd, Fanya stared at Yin Luofeng, who was surrounded by a group of guards. She was slightly stunned. After regaining her senses, she quickly turned around and hurried in the direction of the medical pavilion. Elder Rong, something bad has happened. In the inner hall of the medical pavilion, Elder Rong, who was playing chess with someone, was thinking about how to move his chess piece when the sudden voice startled him. The chess piece in his hand fell to the ground. Just as Elder Rong was frowning impatiently, Fanya suddenly pushed the door open and hurriedly walked in. Perhaps it was because she had run all the way here, but her breathing was not smooth and her enchanting eyes were filled with anxiety. What happened? Elder Rong's frown deepened as he asked in irritation. If it were not for the fact that he had a good relationship with Elder Fong, someone as irritable as him would never have tolerated anyone barging in while he was playing chess. This was simply ruining his good mood. Elder Rong, something has happened. Fanya looked anxious. Just now, I remembered that the spirit-gathering elixir in our medical pavilion was almost sold out, so I went to the Yun family to look for Yin Luofeng, hoping to buy some more elixir from her. Who would have thought that I would see the imperial palace escorting her and General Yun into the imperial palace? Elder Rong, if you had been late, I don't think you would ever see her again. Chapter 121. What? Elder Rong slammed the table angrily and stood up. He glared at Fanya, who had reported the news, and asked through gritted teeth, What did you just say? Have the imperial family eaten a bear's heart and leopard's gall to dare capture Yin Lass? Fanya wiped the sweat from her brow as her enchanting features filled with anxiety. Elder Rong, I saw it with my own eyes. Not only has Lady Yin been taken away by him, even Ning Xian of the Ning family has been brought into the imperial palace by the imperial family. Hearing this, the anger in Elder Rong's eyes gradually subsided. Instead, a strange look appeared on his face. You said that the imperial family has kidnapped Ning Xian? Yes, Elder Rong. Fanya reported respectfully. Elder Rong slowly sat down, and his lips curled into a disdainful angle. He then said, disdainfully, Is the imperial family looking for their own death? Fanya, I remember that Elder Ning will be rushing to Long Yuan country today. Wait for him outside the city gates, and tell him that his granddaughter and goddaughter have been kidnapped by the Dog Emperor, and they are waiting for him to save them. Yes. Fanya joined her fists, and her enchanting eyes flashed with a cold light. The imperial family could have kidnapped anyone. Why did they have to kidnap Yin Luofeng? Yin Luofeng was not only a benefactor to the medical court, she was also highly regarded by Elder Ning. Why would the Ning family let the imperial family off if they had kidnapped her? That's not right. Elder Rong suddenly remembered something and rose to his feet. He frowned. If that's the case, wouldn't I be giving Elder Ning the chance to curry favor with the Yin girl? No, I can't let Elder Ning have the upper hand in this matter. I must make a trip to the Imperial Palace. The main hall of the Imperial Palace was magnificent and majestic. At this moment, in the middle of the hall, Wu Ran was staring hatefully at the Yun family granddaughter and granddaughter. The murderous intent in his eyes was thick and sharp like a sword. The official stood on both sides of the hall, not even daring to breathe as they glanced cautiously at the Emperor, Gao Tu, who was sitting high up on the throne. Gao Tu's face was ashen as he stared coldly at Yin Luofeng, who was standing in the middle of the hall. He spoke in a stern voice. Yin Luofeng, why don't you kneel when you see me? Yin Luofeng curled his lips. My father had once asked for an imperial edict from you. The imperial edict stated that I do not need to kneel when I see anyone from the imperial family. Don't tell me you want to take back your order? Only now did Gao Tu recall the decree he had agreed to that day, and his expression couldn't help but turn even uglier. How dare you? Imperial concubine Mu was sitting next to Gao Tu's day. After hearing Yin Luofeng's words, her beautiful face immediately changed. Her lily-white hand fell on the table, and she angrily shouted, "Who allowed you to be so rude in the main hall? Your decree was given by His Majesty, so you can naturally take it back." Yin Luofeng glanced at Imperial concubine Mu with a smile that wasn't a smile. If the Emperor intends to take back this edict, I, Yin Luofeng, have nothing to say. But if this reaches the ears of the common people, it will become His Majesty going back on his word. The reputation of the Imperial Palace will be swept 1,000 feet. Gao Tu's expression was somewhat impatient. He glanced at Imperial concubine Mu and stopped her from speaking with his eyes. Then, his gaze fell upon Yun Xiao and Ning Xian, who were standing next to Yin Luofeng. He said in a cold voice, "We can allow you to not kneel and pay your respects. However, you guards and maids are far too lacking in etiquette. You actually dare to stand in the Great Hall. Kneel before us." His voice was dignified and domineering. It was filled with a chilly chill as it slowly rang out in the Great Hall. Yin Xiao did not speak. His grim face looked as if he had been paralyzed from the beginning to the end. His dark eyes were forever fixated on the young girl standing next to him. It was as if he had not heard Gao Tu's voice and completely ignored him. Chapter 122. You don't have the right to make them kneel. In this quiet hall, the girl's demonic and awe-inspiring voice was like a stone thrown into the calm surface of a lake, stirring up waves. Gao Tu's face was ashen. With a bang, he fiercely slammed his fist on the table and angrily shouted, "Impudent! General Yun, this is the good granddaughter you've raised." He turned to look at Yin Luo with an ashen face. His voice was stern and cold. Not only did you not discipline your granddaughter properly, you've caused her to become arrogant and willful by nature. She's lawless and out of control. Even her maidservant is a dog that relies on her master's power. She's actually crippled Wu Qi. Now that Master Wu has come knocking on our doors, the general's household must give an explanation. Explanation? Yin Luo laughed icily and rose to his feet. His elderly features were cold and stern. "Your Imperial Majesty, what kind of explanation do you want the general's household to give? Wu Qi had insulted my granddaughter and taken liberties with Ning Xian. He was delusional enough to snatch Ning Xian back to the Wu family as a concubine. Isn't he reaping what he sowed by being crippled?" Gao Tu's face sank, and he scoffed icily. "General Yun, no matter how many wrongs Wu Qi has committed, the general's household should not have crippled him. Besides, the Ning Xian that you speak of is only a little maidservant. As a maidservant, she has the right to be someone else's concubine. As the heir of the Wu family, Wu Qi would never humiliate her. Hearing that Gao Tu had called Ning Xian a little maidservant just like the Wu family, Yin Luo's elderly features lit up with a mocking smile. General Yun, as a meritorious minister of Long Yuan country, we do not wish to punish you. Gao Tu clearly did not see the mocking smile on Yin Luo's face. He calmed the anger in his heart and continued. So, you don't have to worry about this matter. We will now issue an imperial decree to betroth this little maidservant to Wu Qi. Then, you can ask your Yin Luo Feng to apologize to Wu Qi. We will make the decision and let the Wu family forget about this matter. What do you think? To Gao Tu, this was the best way to resolve this matter. She was only a little maidservant anyway. If the general's household needed her, he could send a palace made to serve her. As for Yin Luo Feng, after all, she wasn't the one who did it. As long as he admitted his mistake, everything else could be discussed. A look of anger flashed across Ning Xian's face. This dog of an emperor had actually betrothed her to a scum. Moreover, she was going to be the concubine of this scum. More importantly, he actually said that becoming this scum's concubine wasn't a disgrace to her. He really thought too highly of himself. Just as Ning Xian was about to fly into a rage, a chuckle came from beside her. The young girl raised her eyebrows slightly. Her demeanor was languid and demonic. The corners of her lips curled into an arc, and her peerlessly beautiful face lit up with a soul-stirring smile. I don't know where your sense of superiority comes from. You can casually choose a marriage? Or do you think that because you are the emperor, all the power in the world is in your hands? But don't forget that there's always someone better than you out there. Not everyone is afraid of imperial power. Yun Luofeng's words were tantamount to declaring war against the royal family. As such, all the ministers were shocked silly by her. They stared at the young girl's beautiful face with their mouths agape. Yin Luofeng, how dare you? Imperial concubine Mu's lily-white hand slammed heavily on the table. A sense of disdain flashed across her arrogant eyes as she exclaimed disdainfully, "Everything under the heavens is dirt. If your imperial majesty wishes to bestow a marriage, who would dare to disobey? She's only a little maidservant. Could it be that someone of Wu Qi's status isn't worthy enough to take her as a concubine?" Chapter 123. Based on imperial concubine Mu's status, she would naturally not be privy to the secrets of the mainland. In the eyes of these commoners, the imperial family is a supreme existence. In their own words, everything under the heavens belongs to the imperial family. However, only those with real power would understand that above the imperial family, there is a powerful controller. At the end of the day, the imperial family is only a puppet of that organization. Hence, when he heard imperial concubine Mu's words, Gao Tu's expression did not look too good. However, he only shot imperial concubine Mu a warning glance before turning to face the crowd in the middle of the hall. Yin Luofeng, seeing that you're the only child of the general's household, we will not pursue your crime of disregarding the law. Now that your servant girl has committed a heinous crime, marrying her to Wu Qi as a concubine is already the most lenient punishment. Gao Tu raised his chin slightly, his dignified tone of voice leaving no room for doubt. Suddenly, a light chuckle pierced through the air and sounded from outside the hall, carrying a hint of mockery. This emperor is truly awe-inspiring. Choosing anyone's marriage as he pleases? Do you really think that you can make decisions on this mainland? As soon as he finished speaking, a green-robed old man slowly walked in from outside the main hall. His steps were light and quick. You could only see him take 2 steps, but his whole body was already in front of you. He was like a wisp of green smoke, so fast that it was impossible to see him. Grandfather! A sense of joy flashed in Ning Xian's eyes when she saw Elder Ning. She then walked towards the old man as a gentle smile appeared on her pretty and dignified features. "Grandfather, you're here?" Xian. Elder Ning stroked Ning Xian's head, his eyes filled with affection. "Tell grandfather, did anyone bully you while I was away?" As he spoke, his eyes swept towards Gao Tu, who was seated high up in the hall, as if he was implying something. "Grandfather, Ning Xian's face filled with grievance when she heard this. I've heard that Lin Feng's days in Long Yuan country have not been easy. I thought that it was an exaggeration, but today, when Lin Feng and I went to a restaurant for a meal, Wu Qi from the Wu family barged in and tried to make a move on Lin Feng. What do you mean by an exaggeration? Not only the Wu family would do such a thing, she could also exaggerate the severity of the situation. Sure enough, Elder Ning's expression sank, and his old face was overcast like the eve of a storm. After that, I couldn't stand the sight of those silk pants, so I made a move on them. Who could have guessed that Wu Qi would try to take me back and make me serve him? Ning Xian gritted her teeth and deliberately emphasized the word serve. Her clear eyes were filled with rage. Of course. How could I be willing to be taken advantage of by him? So I crippled him. You saw what happened next. The emperor wanted to take revenge for the Wu family. He captured me and Lin Feng into the palace, intending to force me to marry that scum. He even said that I'm only fit to be his concubine. The more Ning Xian spoke, the more aggrieved she felt. She had been by her grandfather's side since she was a child. Everyone treated her with respect. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? But Gao Tu, not only did he force her to become a concubine, he even said that she was only fit to be his concubine. Elder Ning snorted coldly as a cold light flashed across his indifferent eyes. Xian, Grandpa has told you long ago that you don't need to show mercy to your enemies. How is it enough to deal with that kind of scum by crippling him? You should make him lose an arm or a leg and never be able to stand again for the rest of his life. Grandfather's teachings are right. I'll remember it. Ning Xian winked mischievously and replied with a smile. The grandfather and granddaughter's conversation, as if there was no one else present, had completely infuriated Wu Ran. His eyes glared at Ning Xian, as if he wanted to execute her by 1,000 cuts. Chapter 124. How dare you? How dare you trespass into the imperial palace? You're obviously digging your own grave. Wu Ran then turned towards Gao Tu and fell to his knees with a loud thud. He cried bitterly, Your Imperial Majesty, you must uphold justice for me. This little servant girl and this old man are looking down on the Wu family. They obviously don't respect your Imperial Majesty. This pair of grandfather and granddaughter should be executed by 1,000 cuts, and their 9 generations should be executed. Execute my 9 generations? Elder Ning smiled calmly and replied calmly, I'm afraid that you can't afford to execute my 9 generations. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned his gaze towards Gao Tu and stood with his hands behind his back, looking indifferent. Even the people from the spirit sect didn't dare to say that they would kill their entire family in front of me. I don't know where the royal family gets their arrogance from to be so rude to me. You even call my granddaughter a servant girl? You even call her a concubine? Gao Tu's face, which was originally filled with anger, turned pale with a swoosh after hearing the old man's words. His eyes were filled with fear. Spiritual sect? He actually knows about the spiritual sect. Where did this old man come from? Spiritual sect? What's that? Imperial concubine Mu obviously did not know about the existence of the spiritual sect. She laughed icily and said, Do you think that the spiritual sect can be compared to the imperial family? The entire Long Yuan country belongs to the imperial family. Who would dare to disobey the imperial family's orders? Slap. Just as Imperial concubine Mu had finished speaking, a slap suddenly came from the side and landed fiercely on her cheek. She was dumbfounded and turned her head in disbelief towards the angry, handsome man next to her. Your Imperial Majesty, you. Imperial concubine Mu's beautiful eyes widened and filled with tears. Her beautiful face was deathly pale. On a normal day, she had relied on Gao Tu's pampering to become arrogant. From the fact that she was allowed to participate in politics, one could see her position in Gao Tu's heart. However, she never thought that the Imperial Majesty, who had always pampered her, would slap her. Gao Tu looked at the tears in Imperial concubine Mu's eyes. He couldn't bear it, but when he thought of what she had just said, his anger rose again. He coldly said, The harem is not allowed to participate in politics. This matter will be handled by us. You are not allowed to speak anymore. Imperial concubine Mu's body shook, and her beautiful eyes looked at Gao Tu in astonishment. Her eyes were filled with heartbreak and despair. Did His Majesty intend to take back all her power? Not to mention Imperial concubine Mu. Even the people in the main hall were dumbfounded. They didn't understand why His Majesty would suddenly make a move. Is it possible that the Mujia will lose her favor? Just as everyone was feeling puzzled, Gao Tu had already turned his gaze towards Elder Ning. His expression was no longer as dignified as before, and there was a hint of inquiry in his voice. May I know who this old senior is? Old senior? His Majesty actually used such a word for this old man? A bad feeling arose in Wu Ran's heart. Could it be that this little servant girl had some other background? From beginning to end, Yin Luofeng had the attitude of watching a show. His lips curled into a demonic smile as he looked at Wu Ran, whose expression had stiffened. You don't have the right to know who I am. Elder Ning's tone of voice was as calm as ever, but it revealed the cold arrogance in his heart. Gao Tu's face turned ashen when he was humiliated by Elder Ning in front of so many people. But before he could ascertain Elder Ning's identity, he did not dare to act rashly. Hence, he suppressed the anger in his heart and said, May I know what relationship this old senior has with the Yin family? Chapter 125. At this moment, Gao Tu no longer dared to think that Ning Xin was just a servant girl. Just based on the fact that this old man could silently appear in the palace hall, this kind of strength was not something an ordinary person could achieve. Elder Ning ignored Gao Tu and turned his indifferent eyes to Yin Luofeng. He smiled faintly and said, Little girl, I didn't want to intervene in the grudges between you and the others, but now they've really crossed the line. I asked Ixanair to stay here to protect your safety, but they actually humiliated you in front of Ixanair. Since that's the case, I can't just sit back and watch. Elder Ning's eyes swept across the people in the hall, and the corners of his lips curled up. Who's Mu Wuxuan? Come out. In the hall, everyone looked at each other and looked at Elder Ning in surprise. They didn't expect Elder Ning to look for Mu Wuxuan first. One must know that Mu Wuxuan was different from the others. Not only was she talented, her medical skills were also outstanding. Her understanding of medicine even surpassed her master, Jinglin. Even if this old man's identity was not simple, he couldn't casually offend a doctor with a bright future. After all, everyone has a time when they are sick, right? At this time, the value of making friends with a doctor was obvious. Mu Wuxuan is probably in the Prime Minister's mansion now. Yin Luofeng laughed and raised his eyebrows at Gao Tuesday, Your Majesty. Elder Ning wants to look for Mu Wuxuan. I wonder if you can summon Mu Wuxuan here? Gao Tu's expression changed. He shot a warning look at Yin Luofeng, a sharp glint in his eyes. However, he quickly retracted his gaze and said to Elder Ning, Old Senior, since you know of Wuxuan's existence, you should also know what kind of person she is. Wuxuan is elegant and dignified. It's impossible for her to offend Yin Luofeng. Everything was Yin Luofeng's doing. I hope Old Senior doesn't believe others easily and misunderstand a good girl. Gao Tu's words were obviously biased towards Mu Wuxuan and pushed all the blame to Yin Luofeng. In his opinion, a peerless and outstanding woman like Wuxuan would not provoke Yin Luofeng. It was only because Yin Luofeng admired his son, Gao Ling, that he hated Mu Wuxuan. Hearing Gao Tu's words, Yin Luo's heart grew colder and colder. The last bit of affection he had for Long Yuan country disappeared. In this life, he has been on the battlefield, but he can't compare to the Mu family's daughter. No matter how great the contribution was, it was nothing in Gao Tu's eyes. How could such an emperor be worthy of his loyalty? Elder Ning faintly looked at Gao Tu and said in a cold voice, I believe in my own judgment. Tell Mu Wuxuan to come see me immediately. Otherwise, this old man will absolutely not take things lying down today. Elder. Gao Tu took a deep breath, suppressing the anger that was about to erupt from his body. A cold smile flashed across his eyes. You are indeed very strong, but Wuxuan's medical skills are very high. It can be said that in the whole of Long Yuan Nation, or even the other nations, there is no one who is more talented than her in the field of medicine. Jinglin even asserted that her achievements in the future would not be below anyone else. Offending such a genius doctor, what benefits would there be for you? Elder Ning was stunned. His eyes were filled with astonishment, as if he was deeply shocked by Gao Tu's words. What shocked him was that with Mu Wushuang's medical talent, he actually said that no one can compare to him, and he even said that her achievements in the future would not be below anyone else. Should he say that these people were thinking too highly of themselves, or should he scold them as frogs at the bottom of a well? Chapter 126. Unfortunately, Elder Ning's shocked expression fell into the eyes of the others, and they thought that he was shocked by Gao Tu's words. Gao Tu's lips curled into a smile, and he continued, "Senior, I don't know what your relationship with the general's mansion is, but Wu Shuang's talent is indeed good. I believe that after Senior sees this child, you will definitely like her. As for the general's mansion, I can't forgive them for Senior's sake. What does Senior think? Of course, if Senior wants to be on good terms with Wu Shuang, I advise you not to get too close to the general's mansion." If it was in the past, Gao Tu would never say such words in front of the main hall. But now, he had completely fallen out with the general's mansion, so there was no need to continue pretending. Moreover, his royal family had the #1 expert, so there was no need to be afraid of the general's mansion. It was just that he wanted to use the name of the general's mansion to calm the crowd. Elder Ning regained his senses, and he indifferently looked at Yin Luofeng, with a touch of gentleness in his eyes. "Little girl, these people don't know that you have medical skills. They actually said that Mu Wushuang's medical talent is unparalleled. This is simply waving a big sword in front of Guan Yu. In front of you, they actually dare to flatter Mu Wushuang. I think Mu Wushuang can't even compare to 1/10 of you." Like 5 bolts of lightning striking their heads, everyone present was stunned by Elder Ning's words. Yin Luofeng has medical skills? How is this possible? She's just a waste, and this kind of waste actually has medical skills? Isn't this equivalent to a sow climbing a tree? Gao Tu's eyes looked at Yin Luofeng, then turned to look at Elder Ning and asked, "Senior is also a doctor? This old man wants to learn medical skills, but unfortunately, I don't have the talent. How can I be compared to Mu Wushuang in your Long Yuan country?" Elder Ning's face was indifferent, but everyone could hear the sarcasm in his tone. Gao Tu didn't mind his sarcastic tone, and said with a smile, "Senior, since you're not a doctor, how do you know that Yin Luofeng's medical talent is better than Mu Wushuang's? Mu Wushuang's master, Jinglin, is a highly respected doctor in our Long Yuan country. He has already seen that Mu Wushuang's talent is very strong. In this case, Mu Wushuang's achievements in the future will certainly be unparalleled." Elder Ning frowned as a sneer appeared on his indifferent face. As for Yin Luofeng, Gao Tu paused, then continued, "She is indeed interested in medicine. Otherwise, she wouldn't have spent all of the general's mansion's savings to buy a bunch of useless herbs. However, it doesn't mean that she has the talent. Medical skills aren't that easy to learn. Some people won't be able to achieve much even if they spend their entire lives." The "some people" he mentioned were obviously referring to Yin Luofeng. Yin Luo looked at Gao Tu as though he was looking at an idiot. Even the master of the medical pavilion had come to seek treatment for his granddaughter. In the end, Gao Tu had actually claimed that his granddaughter would never achieve anything great in her lifetime. "Are you guys done talking?" Yin Luofeng lazily yawned. She shrugged her sore shoulders and raised the corner of her lips. "I'm a little tired. I've been standing for so long, and there's not even a chair. It seems that the royal family's hospitality is really not good." The 2 opposing sides quieted down due to Yin Luofeng's sudden interjection. Everyone's eyes fell on the girl, and their eyes were filled with astonishment. Chapter 127. At such a solemn time, she's actually complaining about the imperial family not giving her a seat? Does she not know that I'm the reason why these people are fighting? Elder Ning was also shocked and momentarily forgot what he was supposed to say. He stared blankly at Yin Luofeng. Only Yin Xiao did not think that Yin Luofeng had said anything wrong. In his opinion, the imperial family's way of treating their guests was not very good. They're not even willing to bring out a chair. Hence, Yin Zhao's black eyes slowly turn away from Yin Luofeng, and his grim gaze turned towards Imperial Concubine Mu, who was seated high above. What do you want? Imperial Concubine Mu saw Yun Zhao walking towards her and shivered. Her shrill voice rang out. Quick! Quickly capture this man and protect the Imperial Concubine. Protect the Imperial Concubine. Protect the Imperial Concubine. Gao Tu was also frightened by Yun Zhao's sudden action and anxiously shouted out his orders. However, just as Gao Tu's voice rang out, the grim man's figure moved like a gust of black wind and quickly appeared in front of Imperial Concubine Mu. His speed was so fast that no one could react in time. The guards did not even have time to draw their swords. Thud. The man did not make any unnecessary movements. He pulled Imperial Concubine Mu off the phoenix chair and threw her on the ground. He then bent down to pick up the phoenix chair and walked towards Yun Luofeng, who was in the middle of the main hall. When Yun Zhao placed the phoenix chair behind Yun Luofeng, the crowd suddenly stirred. They stared in shock at the man's grim and handsome features and were deeply awed by his domineering actions. This fellow had snatched the Imperial Concubine's phoenix chair just because of one sentence from Yun Luofeng. Where on earth had the general's mansion managed to recruit such a domineering and sincere man? He was simply the most outstanding lover in every woman's eyes, especially when this man was so good-looking. Unfortunately, his status was too lowly and he was only a guard of the general's mansion. Otherwise, countless women would have gone crazy for him. This chair isn't comfortable, but I can't ask for too much here, so I'll have to make do with it. Yin Luofeng slowly sat down, and the corners of her lips curled into a demonic smile. She looked at the crowd with a smile that did not reach her eyes and said, "All of you continue." Continue? Continue, you big watermelon. How are they supposed to continue their conversation after being interrupted by you? Imperial Concubine Mu felt very sullen. Her beautiful eyes glared hatefully at Yin Zhao, but because she had been slapped by Gao Tu, she did not dare to say another word. Of course, compared to Imperial Concubine Mu, Gao Tu was even more furious. Now, even a small guard dared to look down on the royal family, especially in front of so many ministers? It is not hard to imagine that from now on, the prestige of the royal family will plummet and they will be laughed at by everyone. Elder, Gao Tu suppressed his anger and looked at Elder Ning once again. I hope you can consider my words carefully. With Wu Shuang's future achievements, I believe everyone will only be able to curry favor with her, so don't offend her. If it wasn't for Jing Lin's assertion that Mu Wushuang's medical talent was unparalleled, how could he be so biased towards Mu Wushuang? It was even more impossible for her to become the crown prince's consort. And if Mu Wushuang was really that powerful, with her existence, Long Yuan country would be even more powerful. Your Majesty. A eunuch hurriedly walked in from outside the hall. He walked in front of Gao Tu, flicked his dust, and respectfully said, "Reporting to your Majesty, Elder Rong from the medical court has come to visit." Someone from the medical court has come? Gao Tu's eyes lit up. Even though the medical court refused to treat Gao Ling, the relationship between the medical court and the royal family was not bad. If Elder Rong from the medical court came, this old man would not dare to be presumptuous again. Chapter 128. Quick, invite him in. Gao Tu sat upright, his face full of joy. He did not know what Elder Rong's arrival meant. After all, Jing Lin had suffered a great loss at the medical pavilion and did not have the face to tell the whole story. Otherwise, he would be the one who would be embarrassed. Therefore, Gao Tu had always thought that the medical pavilion did not treat Gao Ling because they were dissatisfied with Jing Lin for destroying the medical pavilion's finances and not because of the royal family. Just as he finished speaking, an old man in a white robe suddenly appeared under the scorching sun outside the main hall. This old man's white robe fluttered in the wind, and he had the demeanor of an expert. Gao Tu recognized the old man's identity at a glance. Elder Rong. Gao Tu could no longer sit still. He stood up happily, and a smile appeared on his handsome face. I don't know why you are here today. Even though Jing Lin has offended the medical pavilion, this has nothing to do with the royal family. I hope that Elder Rong can treat the crown prince. In Gao Tu's opinion, Elder Rong's appearance in the imperial palace must mean that he had forgiven Jing Lin for what he had done and intended to treat Gao Ling. Elder Ning sneered when he heard Gao Tu's words. Didn't you just say that Mu Wushuang's medical talent is unparalleled? Why don't you let Mu Wushuang treat him? Why do you need to ask someone else? As soon as Elder Rong walked into the main hall, he was stunned by Elder Ning's words before he could even say anything. Mu Wushuang's medical talent is unparalleled? If that's the case, what are the talented disciples of the medical pavilion? What's more, there's Yin Luofeng, a doctor who can't even be compared to the experts of the medical pavilion. How dare the royal family shamelessly say such words? It seems that he really came too late this time and missed a lot of things. Gao Tu's face was unhappy, but he did not dare to be angry at Elder Ning. He could only hold back his anger and said, Wu Shuang is talented, but she is too young. There are many things that she doesn't know, so it's understandable that she can't treat him. Elder Rong's brows furrowed more and more. His gaze turned to the indifferent Elder Ning. Elder Ning, can you tell me what happened? Didn't I hear that Yin Luofeng and your little girl were captured by the royal family? How did it become something related to medicine? Could it be that the imperial family wanted to find Yun Lass to treat her illness? That won't do. Not everyone has the qualifications to be treated by little Yun. Like a clap of thunder, it fiercely smashed into the crowd, causing them to tremble. Gao Tu, who had initially wanted to use Elder Rong's power to intimidate Elder Ning, was completely stunned. He stared in shock at the old man's furious face as his heart thundered and his body stiffened. What did Elder Rong mean? He came to the imperial palace for Yin Luofeng, and he dared to say that the imperial family had no right to be treated by Yin Luofeng? Could it be that Yin Luofeng really had medical skills? Gao Tu's face was completely pale. He did not react at all as he stared blankly at Elder Rong. His eyes were filled with shock. Elder Rong, you came at the right time, Elder Ning smiled. I heard that Mu Wushuang has been bullying Yun Lass all these years and wanted to vent his anger for her. I didn't expect that the imperial family would say that Mu Wushuang's talent is superb and his medical skills are superb. His achievements in the future are not something that I can provoke. They also said that with Yun Lass's talent, even if she used her entire life, she would not have any great achievements. I just want to ask, how have you been taking care of Yun Lass for the past 6 months? Don't forget, Yun Lass is the savior of your medical pavilion. Chapter 129. Elder Ning's words made Elder Rong feel ashamed. His heart was filled with guilt, but even more so was the rising anger in his heart. He snorted coldly and turned to look at Gao Tu, who was sitting high up on the throne. With a cold expression, he said, Gao Tu, what benefits did Mu Wushuang give you to make you so biased towards him? How dare he say that she has extraordinary talent? If she can be considered a genius, then Yun Luo can be described as an evildoer. Also, let me tell you something out of goodwill. My master was seriously ill, and no one could cure him. It was this girl who cured him. How can Mu Wushuang compare to her? Gao Tu's body trembled, his face filled with shock. Yin Luofeng was really a famous doctor and had cured the illness that all the experts in the medical pavilion could do nothing about. How was this possible? He did not believe that this good-for-nothing would be able to make a comeback one day. Let me tell you something else. In this world, the only person who can cure jailing is Yun Luofeng. The corners of Elder Rong's lips curled up into a cold smile, completely ignoring the shock in Gao Tu's heart. At this moment, Wu Ran had already curled up in a corner. Her entire body was trembling as she tried to minimize her presence. Although everyone in the world believed that everything belonged to the emperor, there was only one person whom even the emperor would respect. That person was the old man from the medical pavilion, especially when he said that Yun Luofeng was the medical pavilion savior. With this relationship, he would not be able to get away with it today. Concubine Mu did not dare to complain. She bit her lip and glared at Yun Luofeng out of the corner of her eye. You're saying that Yun Luofeng can cure the crown prince? Gao Tu was taken aback. He hurriedly looked at Yun Luofeng, his eyes filled with anxiety. That's right. But based on the current situation, don't think that Yun Luofeng can cure jailing. Elder Rong smiled coldly. Also, did you not hear what Elder Ning said earlier? Immediately summoned Mu Wushuang into the palace. I want the world to understand that the royal family is nothing. In the main hall, the ministers sighed endlessly. They were well aware of the status of the medical pavilion in the mainland. They also knew that even the royal family respected the medical pavilion. However, they did not expect that the royal family did not feel respect for the medical hall, but fear. Right now, they were indeed like frogs at the bottom of a well. They only knew that the royal family was powerful, but they didn't know that there was an even more powerful existence above the royal family. Elder Rong. Gao Tu was a little hesitant. He frowned and said, "Even if Yin Luofeng has medical skills, that doesn't mean that her talent is greater than Wu Shuang's. Perhaps it was just a coincidence that she was able to cure the people from your medical pavilion. Wu Shuang's medical talent is recognized by many people." No matter what, Gao Tu was unwilling to believe that a piece of trash like him could have such influence. A bunch of frogs at the bottom of a well. Elder Rong glanced at Gao Tu disdainfully and said sarcastically, "Mu Wushuang's talent should be what Jing Lin told you. Can that guy's word be trusted?" He was merely bragging about himself. 100 Mu Wushuan couldn't even compare to one Yun Luofeng. "I'll give you one more chance. If you don't summon Mu Wushuan and Jing Lin, I'll personally go to the Prime Minister's residence. At that time, I don't know what will happen to the Prime Minister's residence." "Your Majesty," Imperial concubine Mu screamed. Her beautiful face was deathly pale, and her nails dug deep into her palms. "Your Majesty, Wu Shuang is innocent. It must be Yin Luofeng who framed her. Your Majesty, please help Wu Shuang." Chapter 130. Innocent. Elder Ning coldly snorted. His indifferent face raised a touch of ridicule. "I heard that more than half a year ago, the people of your royal family framed Yun Ruoyan, claiming that she robbed a handsome man on the street so that the crown prince would cancel the engagement with her. However, I found out that the person who deliberately framed her was the innocent Mu Wushuang." The old man's words were like a heavy weight, mercilessly hitting concubine Mu's heart. She was shocked, and her eyes widened, denying it. "That's impossible. Wu Shuang is a kind person. He would never do such a thing." Even though concubine Mu said so, her heart was not sure. Perhaps the world did not know Mu Wushuang's true character, but she knew it very well. With Mu Wushuang's character, he would definitely do such a thing. "Guards!" Gao Tu hardened his heart and commanded, "Bring Mu Wushuang to see me." "Your Majesty!" Concubine Mu cried out. She clenched her fists tightly. "Wu Shuang would never do such a thing. This is all a false accusation. If Mu Wushuang's reputation was ruined, it would be extremely disadvantageous to the Mu Jia. She would never allow such a thing to happen. Beloved, you're tired. Go and rest." Gao Tu looked at concubine Mu's pale face and lightly said. Obviously, he has been dissatisfied with concubine Mu's repeated rude words. Although concubine Mu is very much favored by him, he will not offend the medical pavilion for a woman. With Elder Rong here, the Mu Jia can only accept their bad luck this time. Concubine Mu's body trembled. She relied on Gao Tu's love for her in the past to plead for Mu Wu Shuang. But before she could speak, the man's majestic voice sounded again. "Guards, take concubine Mu away. Without my order, she is not allowed to take a step out of the palace." Hearing this, on both sides of the palace, 2 guards stood up and respectfully cupped their fists. "Yes, your Majesty." Concubine Mu's body softened and almost fell to the ground. She stubbornly supported her body and unwillingly bowed to Gao Tu, bowed and said, "This concubine will take her leave." Her beautiful eyes were filled with pitiful tears. When she looked up, she couldn't help but look at Gao Tu again. After seeing that Gao Tu did not respond, she could only follow the 2 guards out of the hall. "Elder Rong, I will send someone to bring Mu Wu Shuang. Please wait for a moment." Gao Tu smiled. His tone was no longer as sharp as before. Instead, it was filled with a fawning tone. Elder Rong snorted and ignored Gao Tu's goodwill. He arrogantly turned his head to the side and began to chat with Elder Ning. "He's old, and his legs are really inconvenient. He's not like some people who don't know how to give up their seats to the elderly. The old man's voice was filled with dissatisfaction as he frowned slightly. This caused Gao Tu to react abruptly. With a stern face, he berated Yin Luofeng. Yin Luofeng, are you still not going to give up your chair to Elder Rong? In the entire hall, only he and Yin Luofeng were sitting. Therefore, Gao Tu was certain that the person Elder Rong spoke of was Yin Luofeng. Hearing this, the corners of Yin Luofeng's lips curled up. His demonic eyes swept towards Gao Tu, and he said with a faint smile, "Are you sure Elder Rong wants me to give up my seat? If it's not you, who else would it be?" Gao Tu's face was stern as he sternly berated, "Yin Luofeng, even though you have saved the lives of the people of the medical pavilion, Elder Rong's status is still there. You still need to respect him and not force him to repay you. What's more, Elder Rong came to the Imperial Palace for you. You should give up your seat to him." Chapter 131. Elder Ning calmly swept his gaze across the righteous emperor and laughed mockingly. This old man has never seen such a shameless person. The person that Elder Rong was talking about was obviously you, yet you insist on pushing the blame onto the young girl. The thickness of your skin is unparalleled. Gao Tu's expression froze. What does this old man mean? Elder Rong is not referring to Yin Luofeng. It's me? He turned his gaze towards Elder Rong at the thought of this. When he saw the ridicule in the old man's eyes, Gao Tu felt flustered and a wave of anger rose from his heart. He glared coldly at Yin Luofeng as his dignified eyes darkened. If it had not been for her, I would never have lost all my dignity in front of so many officials. I would never have been humiliated like this. Sooner or later, I will return this humiliation to her. As the emperor of Long Yuan country, Gao Tu naturally has his own pride. On the surface, he treats these people respectfully, but in reality, he is not willing to serve anyone. He has always believed that, as the ruler of the 9-5, he should be above everyone else. He should accept the worship and obedience of a world. He should not be trying to curry favor with anyone else. However, in the end, he suppressed the anger in his heart and ordered coldly, "Servants, prepare seats for these 2 guests." Not 2, but 3. Elder Ning smiled calmly. "General Yin Luo is old and frail. Do you intend to let him stand here forever?" These words almost made Gao Tu spit out 3 liters of blood. He clenched his fists tightly and took a deep breath to quell the anger in his heart. He then ordered coldly, "Prepare a seat for General Yun as well." Only the heavens would know how sullen he felt when he said these words. His handsome face was filled with cold and hard lines. A sharp light flashed across his dignified eyes as he stared coldly at Yin Luo. He wanted to see if General Yin would dare to sit in front of him. Unfortunately, things did not go as he wished. Yin Luo slowly sat down in front of him. The old man's face was filled with a high-spirited smile, as if he did not place the emperor in his eyes at all. Gao Tu's eyes darkened, and a fierce glint flashed across his eyes. It was filled with strong, killing intent. At this moment, Gao Tu really wanted to kill this old general who had made great contributions to the Long Yuan country. Just because this old man dared to sit in front of him, wouldn't this mean that he's on equal footing with me? Gao Tu, who was easily paranoid, couldn't help but wonder if this old man was planning to usurp the throne. Otherwise, why would he dare to sit on equal footing with him? "Your Majesty," a shrill voice came from outside the hall. A eunuch walked into the great hall with a horsetail whisk in his hand. Dusting his robes, he knelt down and reporting to your Majesty, Prime Minister Mu and Mu Wuxuan are already waiting outside the great hall. Gao Tu frowned. He glanced at Elder Rong, who was seated in the hall, and coldly ordered, "Let them in." "Yes, your Majesty." The eunuch bowed and hurriedly walked out of the great hall. Not too long after, Mu Xingqiu, who was dressed in court robes, slowly walked into the great hall. He stood with his hands behind his back, his tall figure incomparably dignified. His elderly face showed a sense of astonishment when he saw the people seated in the great hall, clearly not knowing what was going on. Mu Wuxuan, who had followed closely behind, saw Yin Luofeng at first glance. A strange light flashed across her beautiful eyes. At this moment, An uneasy feeling welled up in her heart. Chapter 132. Your Majesty, Your Majesty. Mu Xingqiu and Mu Wushuang walked in front of Gao Tu and greeted him respectfully. Rise. Gao Tu raised his hand and said indifferently, Wushuang, Yin Luofeng said that you've been bullying him all these years. Is this true? Mu Wushuang raised her beautiful eyes in surprise and turned to Yin Luofeng. After a long time, she regained her senses and said righteously, Yin Luofeng, you're weak. Not only were you bullied, you even met with the Crown Prince's rejection of your engagement. But what does this have to do with me? Don't you dare slander me. I, Mu Wushuang, have never done anything to hurt you. If it's true, I can't deny it. Yin Luofeng couldn't possibly know what she had done all these years. So, as long as she didn't admit it, even if Yin Luofeng came to the emperor to complain about her, it wouldn't help. Yin Xiao looked at Mu Wushuang expressionlessly. His cold eyes were so deep that no one could tell what this man was thinking. Yin Luofeng. Mu Xingqiu didn't allow anyone to answer Mu Wushuang's question and continued. Wushuang will never look at a trash like you. Not to mention you. It's you who has been looking for trouble with Wushuang and even schemed to frame her. I advise you not to bring shame upon yourself. Also, you should take care of your Yin family's guard. If he looks at Wushuang again, don't blame me for being impolite. My identity as the daughter of the Mu family is not something a guard can dream of. Mu Wushuang heard her grandfather's words and turned to look at Yin Xiao. At that moment, her beautiful eyes flashed with obvious amazement. Before this, she had thought that Crown Prince Gaoling was the most handsome man in Long Yuan country. She didn't expect the Yin family to have such an outstanding guard. Not only did this man have a face that even the gods would be jealous of, but his body was also perfect enough to make people's blood boil. Especially his deep eyes. It was as if they could suck people deep into his black pupils in an instant. If this cold man didn't stand beside Yin Luofeng like a guard, no one would be able to guess his lowly identity. Such a man was like a king, with such a strong aura. Even Gao Tu, who was the emperor, didn't have it. Mu Wushuang recovered from his slight amazement and sneered in his heart. So what if this cold man's aura was strong? Since he was willing to be a guard for the Yin family, he must not have any outstanding status. A mere bodyguard was not worthy of her. She was destined to be the mother of the world. She was not someone that ordinary people could imagine. But Ning Xian couldn't help but laugh out loud. Her pretty face lit up with a smile. Grandfather, I really don't understand. Why do some people think so highly of themselves? Yin Xiao had only taken a glance at her, and she was certain that the other party had taken a fancy to her. All the men in the world only need to glance at her once to fall in love with her. In any case, she had lived in the Yin family for half a year. How could she not know that Yin Xiao only had eyes for Yin Luofeng? He would only obey Yin Luofeng's orders unconditionally. This man didn't even care about his grandfather and elder Rong. How could such a person be interested in Mu Wushuang? Upon hearing their words, Yin Xiao turned towards Mu Wushuang once again. His paralyzed face was forever expressionless, and his grim, black eyes were calm and unmoved. Chapter 133. You're too stupid. His voice was hoarse and magnetic as it slowly fell into the quiet hall. Like a stone falling into a lake, it caused a ripple. Mu Wushuang's expression immediately changed. She clenched her fists tightly as a cold light flashed across her beautiful eyes. This man dared to insult her like this? If she was stupid, there would be no smart people in this world. You're saying I'm stupid? Suddenly, Mu Wushuang sneered. If I'm stupid, then why wouldn't Yin Luofeng, who is smarter than me, win the Crown Prince's favor? Why did the Crown Prince choose me instead? The man was silent for a moment before he truthfully replied. He's also stupid. His words were always simple and clear. You should never expect this cold man who cherishes his words like gold to say more to you. That's right. Yin Xiao, you're right. These two idiots are a match made in heaven. If they don't get together, they'll be letting down the heavens. Yin Luofeng lazily leaned against the back of her chair. The corners of her lips curled up into a demonic smile. She turned her gaze towards Yin Xiao and said playfully, If you want to look in the future, just look at me. Otherwise, some people will be thick-skinned enough to think that you've taken a fancy to her." As she said this, Yin Luofeng's demonic eyes glanced at the ice-cold Mu Wuxuan, and the smile in her eyes deepened. However, when her words fell into the hall, it stirred up a storm. Everyone looked at Yin Luofeng and Yun Xiao with astonished gazes, as if they were watching a piece of gossip. They had long heard that Yin Luofeng was fond of beautiful men. Not only had she pursued the crown prince for many years, but she had also stolen a man in public. Who would have thought that today? She wouldn't even let her own bodyguard off. Yin Luofeng felt the astonished gazes, and his old face became a little embarrassed. He glared fiercely at Yin Luofeng. This smelly girl. She's actually flirting with Yun Xiao as if there's no one else around. If this gets out, where'll I put my old face? All right. Yun Xiao heard Yin Luofeng's words and nodded seriously. Perhaps he was afraid that Yin Luofeng would misunderstand, so he explained in a serious manner. "I heard that her skin is very thick, so I wanted to see who's thicker, her or the city wall. Sure enough, I still think that she's thicker." The man's serious expression made it seem as if he was narrating a fact, making it impossible to doubt a word he said. And this is also the longest sentence he has said so far, but it was used to judge Mu Wuxuan. Was this considered Mu Wuxuan's honor? Yin Luofeng. Even if Mu Wuxuan's self-cultivation was good, he was still angered by Yun Zhao's words, and his chest heaved up and down. He angrily said, You better control your people. If you don't know how to discipline them, I don't mind doing it for you." Yin Luofeng glanced at her from the corner of his eye and slowly rose from his seat. There was a sense of arrogance in his demonic smile. "You have no right to lecture my people. Mu Xingqiu, Mu Wuxuan, the blood debt that your Mu Jia owes, I, Yin Luofeng, will definitely make them pay." The Prime Minister's mansion owed the Yun family far too much. If it weren't for Mu Xingqiu, the parents of this body wouldn't have passed away at such a young age, leaving behind the young Yin Luofeng. Yin Luofeng. Mu Xingqiu's eyes were filled with anger. "Yes, the death of your parents is indeed related to my Mu Jia, but I've already apologized. What else do you want? Besides, haven't you heard of the saying that if the king of hell wants you dead by midnight, who would dare to keep you alive until midnight? If your parents weren't fated to die, even if I leaked the information, they wouldn't have died. It was because the king of hell wanted to take care of them that they fell." Chapter 134. In other words, the death of Yin Luofeng's parents had nothing to do with him. So what if he leaked the information? If they weren't fated to die, they wouldn't have died either. If they died, it proves that the king of hell wanted to take them away. Besides, he has already apologized. Does the Yin family need to push him too far? Thinking of the time when Yin Luo led the army to flatten his mansion, his heart was full of resentment. "Yin Luofeng, your parents died early. You should think about whether your parents did something wicked, or else the king of hell wouldn't have taken them away. Don't blame us all the time. I've already apologized. I, Mu Xingqiu, have a clear conscience." Yin Luofeng laughed. "That year, when the two armies were at war, my parents fell into a bitter battle. As a result, the two of them thought of a countermeasure, but this countermeasure needed the cooperation of others. So, my father sent a letter to the imperial city overnight, but the emperor believed you and ordered you to cooperate with my parents. And you, because of your greed for beauty, fell into the enemy's honey trap, leaked the information, and even exposed the location of my parents, causing my parents to die. Isn't this your fault?" Mu Xingqiu's face changed. He stubbornly said, "I'll say it again. Your parents did something wicked. That's why the king of hell took their lives. I didn't do anything wrong. What's more, it's normal for two armies to fight to the death. This matter has nothing to do with me." In the face of Mu Xingqiu's shameless denial, the ministers all felt disdain, but the other party had a daughter who was an imperial concubine. No matter how much disdain they felt in their hearts, they didn't dare to show it on their faces. Yin Luofeng sneered, turned to the two old men behind him, and slightly raised the corner of his lips. "Elder Rong, Elder Ning, I know you want to help me get revenge, but I still think it's more refreshing to do it myself. You don't need to intervene in this matter. Leave the rest to me." The two old men nodded, looking at Mu Xingqiu with eyes full of mockery. They have seen shameless people, but they have never seen shameless to this extent. Today was truly an eye-opener for them. Mu Wushuang. After saying this, Yin Luofeng's evil eyes once again turned to Mu Wushuang. You are most proud of your medical skills. I don't know if you dare to compete with me here. If I lose, you can do whatever you want with me. But if you lose, I want everyone in the Mu clan to kneel in front of my parents' grave and admit your wrongs. In addition, I want you to write a statement of guilt. Write down everything that the Prime Minister's mansion has done over the years and post it on the city walls as a warning. Mu Wushuan's expression completely changed. She couldn't agree to either of Yin Luofeng's requests. She couldn't accept with the letter of the Prime Minister's grave, let alone the Prime Minister's grave. To Mu Luofeng with this, the Prime Minister's reputation would be ruined. Mu Minister's Luo with. Mu Wushuang bit her lips tightly. Her elegant and beautiful face showed a touch of entanglement. Her brows slightly wrinkled. Obviously, she was still thinking about whether or not to agree to Yin Luofeng's challenge. Ha ha ha. Mu Xingqiu, do you still remember what you said to me before? Yin Luo laughed out loud and said sarcastically, You said that your Mu family had imperial concubine Mu, and now you have Mu Wushuan. No matter how many geniuses my general's estate has, they can't compare to your Prime Minister's estate, who can talk pillow talk in front of His Majesty. But now, if Mu Wushuang refuses my granddaughter's proposal, it means that you admit that the Prime Minister's people are inferior to my granddaughter. Chapter 135. Mu Xingqiu's eyes were burning with anger. He coldly snorted, turned his head to look at Mu Wushuang, and sternly ordered, Wushuang, since the Yin family wants to ask for trouble, then you must fulfill their wish. I don't believe that with Yin Luofeng's strength, he can really compete with Mu Wushuang. Mu Wushuang was a little hesitant, her brows slightly wrinkled, her eyes swept to the old man sitting in the hall. A strange light flashed in her eyes. This old man had fainted on a boat on the Qin River, but she had been unable to find out what kind of illness he was suffering from. However, Yin Luofeng had gone to save the old man, right in front of her. Because of this, Mu Wushuang didn't know whether she should accept this challenge or not. Wushuang. Mu Xingqiu obviously knew the hesitation in his granddaughter's heart. He walked to Mu Wushuang's side, his eyes revealing a gloomy light. You accept Yin Luofeng's challenge. I believe that with your strength, you will not lose to her. What's more, even if she loses, Yin Luofeng doesn't have any evidence of the Mu clan's crimes in her hands. She still can't do anything to us. As if Mu Xingqiu's words had given Mu Wushuang confidence, her beautiful eyes slightly lifted and fell on Yin Luofeng's body. Yin Luofeng, if you lose this competition, I want you to be my servant from now on. Serve me for life. Didn't she like the crown prince? At that time, when this woman saw him and the crown prince loving each other, she would definitely feel as if a knife was being twisted in her heart, and she would rather die. This was the price the general's mansion had to pay for daring to be their enemy all these years. Mu Wushuan seemed to be able to see Yin Luofeng's pained expression, and the corners of his mouth involuntarily rose into a graceful and moving smile. All right. Yin Luofeng leaned against Yun Zhao's body as if there was no one else around, her posture languid and demonic. She stretched lazily and turned towards Mu Wushuan with a smile. The prerequisite is that you have the ability to make me serve you like a slave. Mu Wushuang snorted, no longer entangled in the bet. She sneered and asked, Yin Luofeng, this bet, since it was you who proposed it, then I should be the one to decide how to make this bet. Yin Luofeng squinted at Mu Wushuang and raised the corner of his lips. Sure, say it. Seeing that Yin Luofeng was so easily fooled, Mu Wushuang's heart flashed with joy. Her eyes turned slightly and turned to the eunuch who was standing quietly next to her, her face still holding an elegant smile. Eunuch Lin has been castrated since he entered the palace. If you have the ability to restore him to his masculinity, I, Mu Wushuang, am willing to admit defeat. Not only will we fulfill our bet, but we will also be at your disposal. For a man who had already become a eunuch, even if an immortal came, it would be impossible for him to regain his vigor, let alone Yin Luofeng. Yin Luofeng looked at Mu Wushuang with a faint smile. If the two of us can't restore his masculinity, then who will win and who will lose? Mu Wushuang faintly smiled. Yin Luofeng, I just want you to know the difficulties in retreat. Your medical skills can't compare with mine. If you admit defeat now, maybe you can save the last face, but if you insist on doing so, the only one who will lose face is you. Her lecturing tone was like she was teaching Yin Luofeng. I just want to know, if the two of us can't cure him, who will be judged as the loser? Yin Luofeng raised her eyebrows and looked at Mu Wushuang's elegant and indifferent face, the corner of her mouth holding a trace of a demonic smile. Chapter 136. Of course you lose, Mu Wushuang said, as if it was a matter of course. The competition was proposed by you, and the question was set by me. So, if you succeed in making eunuch Lin a man again, I will admit defeat. Otherwise, you lose. Everyone could hear the unfairness of the verdict, causing the ministers to whisper to each other, but no one dared to question it. Yin Luo frowned slightly, and just as he was about to refute, Gao Tu's hearty laughter suddenly came from the high seat. General Yin, since it was your granddaughter who proposed the bet, your Yin family wouldn't want to go back on your word, right? Moreover, since Mu Wushuang is the one being challenged, then whether it's the question or the verdict, it should be decided by her. This is not wrong. Gao Tu's heart was still biased towards the Prime Minister's mansion. Even in front of Elder Rong, he still stood on Mu Wushuang's side. What's more, he was just a notary of the competition. He didn't hurt Yin Luofeng. Even Elder Rong couldn't say anything. After all, the people of the medical pavilion still had to take into account the spiritual gate behind him. Elder Ning laughed twice and said mockingly, "So this is the Long Yuan country's royal family's doing?" As far as I know, not only did Prime Minister Mu not make any contribution to Long Yuan country, but he also almost dragged down the whole country. Just because his daughter is the imperial concubine of Long Yuan country. Long Yuan country is biased towards him. For this reason, they didn't hesitate to give up the hard-working General Yin Luo. This Long Yuan country's favoritism was too obvious. Yin Luo had made great contributions to the country, but he couldn't be compared to the daughter of an imperial concubine. "Little girl, are you sure?" Elder Rong frowned, looking at Yin Luofeng and asked, "If you're not sure, Elder Rong, will definitely protect your safety, even if I have to sacrifice my face." Although Elder Rong knew that Yin Luofeng's medical skills were excellent, the ability to bring a dead person back to life was too magical, and generally, no one could do it. Yin Luofeng's lips curled into a smile, and his evil eyes looked towards Gao Tu, who was sitting on the dragon throne. "I don't know why my old man has been loyal to a king like you all these years. My parents died too unjustly, and it's not worth it." Yin Luofeng. Anger burned in Gao Tu's chest. His sharp gaze shot towards Yin Luofeng. "You were the one who made this bet. Are you going back on your word now?" Yin Luofeng smiled disapprovingly. "I, Yin Luofeng, have always been a man of my word. I won't be like the people of the royal family who will never keep their promises." She was referring to the fact that she didn't have to kneel in front of the royal family. However, when these words fell into Gao Tu's ears, the meaning clearly changed. "We had indeed set up an engagement between you and the crown prince, but who knew that you were actually a good-for-nothing? As a piece of trash, how can you be worthy of being the mother of the world? Therefore, taking back my promise isn't my fault. It's your own failure to live up to expectations." Yin Luofeng raised her eyebrows slightly. She didn't explain much about Gao Tu's misunderstanding. Her evil eyes slowly turned towards Elder Rong. "Elder Rong, your medical pavilion has a lot of medicinal herbs. Please help me send these over. Remember, all the herbs I want must be over 100 years old. The more precious, the better. Also, put these herbs on the royal family's account." Chapter 137. Gao Tu's face was ashen, and his gaze toward Yin Luofeng was filled with malice. Yin Xiao sensed Gao Tu's gaze, and his brows furrowed. He stood in front of Yin Luofeng, using his own body to block Gao Tu's line of sight. If it wasn't for the fact that Yin Luofeng didn't like other people interfering in her affairs, just this glance from Gao Tu was enough for her to die 1,000,000 times. Little Yin, tell me the name of the medicinal herb. I'll go get it for you right now. Elder Rong laughed out loud. He was in good mood. Every stalk of 100-year-old medicinal herb had a sky-high price in the medical pavilion. Usually, they wouldn't be able to sell a single stalk in a month. They didn't expect to sell so many in such a short time. One could imagine that the emperor's treasury was going to bleed a lot this time. In addition, although this treatment is the result of the bet between me and Mu Wu Shuang, I once swore to my master that I will not treat patients who don't pay. The master that she mentioned was, of course, made up. Furthermore, she had used him as a shield. However, when these words fell on Elder Rong's heart, his eyes suddenly lit up, and he was even more certain of his guess. Wasn't that godly doctor very greedy? It was said that in order to seek treatment from him, one would need to pay a huge fortune in addition to having a good affinity with him. You have no money? Then he probably won't even see you. Therefore, Elder Rong had already determined that Yin Luofeng was the disciple of the miracle doctor. If Yin Luofeng knew what Elder Rong was thinking, he would definitely sigh in his heart. This misunderstanding was really deep. Yin Luofeng, you haven't even treated him, and you're asking for money? Mu Xingqiu spoke first. He glared at Yin Luofeng angrily. Furthermore, I've never heard of a bet being used to treat illnesses. Furthermore, I've never heard of anyone asking for money. Yin Luofeng sighed and said awkwardly, I don't have a choice. I swore in front of my master that I won't treat patients who don't pay. Otherwise, he will expel me from his sect. Xiao Imo, who had remained silent in the divine hall for a very long time, could not help but burst into laughter when he heard Yin Luofeng's words. As expected, if her master didn't cheat others, she wouldn't be her master. Even in this kind of situation, he did not forget to ask for a sum of money. Yin Luofeng, how much do you want? Gao Tu's expression was ugly as he asked through clenched teeth. Yin Luofeng's eyes flickered a few times. He smiled slightly and said, Not much, 50 million gold. If it was 50 million taels of silver, it would still make sense, but she actually asked for gold? Gao Tu tightly clenched his fists and coldly snorted. Yin Luofeng, if you cannot make Eunuch Lin a real man, we will not give you a single cent. Not to mention Gao Tu. Even the ministers present all believed that Yin Luofeng was incapable of restoring Eunuch Lin's majesty. That was why he found such a lowly excuse. Now that his majesty had promised her, let's see what other excuses she could find. Just as the ministers were guessing, the girl's languid and demonic voice slowly rang out in the hall. Fine. If I fail, I won't charge a single copper coin. If I succeed, I want the royal family to fulfill their promise and pay 50 million taels of gold. She agreed. Everyone was taken aback, and their astonished gazes turned to the beautiful white-clothed girl in the middle of the hall. Could it be that the 50 million taels of gold that she had proposed was not an excuse for her incompetence? However, making a eunuch a real man was too unimaginable. How could this happen? Impossible. The ministers comforted themselves in their hearts. They definitely did not believe that Yin Luofeng's medical skills had reached such a high level. Chapter 138. Elder Rong's speed was very fast. Before long, he had arrived at the imperial palace from the medical pavilion. He took out the herbs from his space ring and smiled. Yin girl, I brought the herbs you wanted. Everyone's eyes widened when they saw the medicinal ingredients that appeared out of nowhere. They stared at the ring on Elder Rong's finger with a hint of envy. That was a space ring, a treasure that all martial artists in the world could only dream of. Who would have thought that Elder Rong would have such a treasure? It's about time. Yin Luofeng gently stroked his chin and smiled evilly. Elder Rong, I don't trust the people in the imperial palace to brew the medicine. Hence, I'll leave this matter to you, Elder Rong. Oh yes, don't forget to ask the emperor for your reward. To have Elder Rong brew the medicine personally, I'm afraid not many people in Long Yuan country have such treatment. It should not be less than 10 million gold. At this moment, The man on the high seat's face turned ashen, his eyes burning with anger. He wanted to use his eyes to cut Yin Luofeng into 1,000 pieces. Elder Rong laughed out loud. That's right. The Yin girl is right. I'll personally brew the medicine, so I can't be short of money. Gao Tu, you should prepare the money first, just in case you can't take out so much money in an emergency. Gao Tu took a deep breath, suppressing the anger in his heart. He gritted his teeth and said, Yin Luofeng, if you can't cure his infertility, I will make you pay for what you've done today. Yin Luofeng raised his eyebrows and smiled evilly. You won't have such a chance. What was arrogance? No one knew better than the officials present. A hedonistic son was indeed a hedonistic son. No matter what he did, he was always so brainless. A eunuch who had his manhood cut off could still become a man? This was even more exaggerated than an ant raping an elephant. Feng, Yin Luofeng frowned and asked worriedly, How confident are you? Hearing the old man's worried voice, Yin Luofeng smiled devilishly. His eyes were filled with incomparable confidence. Don't worry, just collect the money. I will fill up our Yun family's treasury. Besides, this is what he owes our Yun family. Yin Luofeng did not say anything else. Even he himself did not know why he trusted this granddaughter, whom he had not seen in 10 years. It was as if whatever she said, she would definitely do it. Before long, Elder Rong boiled the medicinal ingredients into soup and brought it in front of Yin Luofeng. Yin Luofeng took the medicinal soup and slowly walked towards Eunuch Lin. Your Majesty! Eunuch Lin turned pale with fright and hurriedly turned to look at Gao Tuesday. He wanted to plead on his behalf, but Gao Tu's words made him unable to say anything. Do whatever she tells you to do, don't disobey. The Emperor's voice was filled with an unquestionable decision, causing Eunuch Lin's heart to be filled with bitterness. He turned to look at the young girl who had already walked up to him, and a sense of fear slowly rose in his heart. Drink it. The young woman raised her brows as she looked at Eunuch Lin. Eunuch Lin laughed bitterly. He extended a trembling old hand and timidly accepted the soup Yin Luofeng handed him. Before this, he had already completely offended the Yun family when he had been ordered to capture Yin Luofeng. Now, Mu Wushuang had used him as a test subject in the competition. He could imagine that Yin Luofeng must have brewed poison for him. Eunuch Lin was filled with regret. If he had known earlier, he would not have offended the Yun family in order to please the imperial consort. Now his life was over. Chapter 139. Eunuch Lin closed his eyes and poured the medicinal soup down his throat, unafraid of death. His face was covered in makeup, and no one could see his expression, but anyone could guess that it must be an extremely ugly sight. Clang! Feeling a burning sensation on his chest, the soup bowl in Eunuch Lin's hand fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. He clutched his stomach in agony and glared fixedly at Yin Luofeng. He gritted his teeth and said, You poisoned me. Poison? The crowd exploded when they heard this. They never thought that Yin Luofeng would kill Eunuch Lin with poison in front of everyone. Yin Luofeng. Mu Wushuang glanced at the pained Eunuch Lin and furrowed her willowy brows. A sense of dissatisfaction flashed across her beautiful eyes. You had promised so readily, and I really thought that you had the power to do so. I had already prepared myself for your humiliation. I never thought that for the sake of a bet, you would disregard the lives of others and actually brew a poison to harm him. Mu Wushuang looked puzzled as she stared at the young girl who was standing with her arms crossed in front of her. She really could not understand how Yin Luofeng could still remain as steady as Mount Tai at a time like this. Mu Wushuang furrowed her willowy brows and continued to berate him in a righteous voice. Yin Luofeng, you've harmed people's lives. How can you act so righteously? A person like you is not fit to be a doctor. In the great hall, the ministers all stared accusingly at Yin Luofeng. Some of their eyes were even filled with disdain and ridicule, feeling disdain for the young girl's actions. The young girl's peerless features curled into a demonic smile. She crossed her arms over her chest and lazily glanced at Eunuch Lin, who was rolling on the ground in fright. He's rolling on the ground with such strength. Does he look like he's been poisoned? As soon as the young lady finished speaking, all eyes gathered on Eunuch Lin. Eunuch Lin was stunned and stopped rolling on the ground. He could not understand what was going on either. In that moment, he clearly thought that he was about to be poisoned to death. Why is he still perfectly fine now? Moreover, a warm feeling enveloped his entire body, making him feel unusually comfortable. I'm not dead. Eunuch Lin crawled to his feet and dusted off the dust on his robes. He smiled awkwardly. My apologies, I thought that I'd been poisoned. Did he think he was poisoned? If not for the fact that Eunuch Lin was extremely trusted by His Majesty, they would have already cursed him. This guy thought that he was poisoned and was making a big fuss here, causing them to lose face together with him. Mu Wuxuan clenched her fists tightly as a look of shame appeared on her face. She wished she could find a hole to hide in. This was too shameful, too shameful. It was all Eunuch Lin's fault. If he hadn't stood up for him, he wouldn't have been humiliated like this. Your Majesty, just as Eunuch Lin was about to explain his actions, there was a thump as a leg kicked him in the crotch. Caught off guard, he was sent flying. What are you doing? Eunuch Lin shrieked angrily as he glared at Yin Luofeng. Yin Luofeng didn't say much. She lifted Eunuch Lin up again and slammed him onto the ground. She stepped on Eunuch Lin's body and said evilly, "Don't forget, the Emperor said that you have to do whatever I tell you to." Then, Yin Luofeng retracted his leg, his voice filled with laziness. Chapter 140. Aside from Yin Xiao, no one else had noticed that Yin Luofeng had injected spiritual energy into Eunuch Lin's body while he was berating him. Eunuch Lin's chest burned with rage. He knows that Yin Luofeng must have done it on purpose. He was just looking for an excuse to beat him up. The more he thought about it, the angrier Eunuch Lin became. He rose to his feet and was about to complain when he suddenly felt a burning sensation in his crotch. It was a very uncomfortable feeling. Ning Xin, turn around. Yin Luofeng turned towards Ning Xin and raised his brow. Ning Xin blinked, and a sense of confusion flashed in her eyes. However, she did not ask anything and turned her back towards Yin Luofeng. The moment the beautiful girl turned around, Yin Luofeng pulled out a sword from a guard's hand. With two swishing sounds, Eunuch Lin's clothes were all cut to shreds. The moment she swung her sword down, the cold man who had remained expressionless reached out to cover her eyes. Yin Luofeng raised the corners of his lips. Sometimes, she did not need to say much for Yun Xiao to know what to do. Even Yin Luofeng himself could not understand when she and Yun Xiao had developed such a tacit understanding. Impossible, I must be blind. This is absolutely impossible. After a moment of silence in the great hall, a shocked voice suddenly rang out. Mu Wuxuan had forgotten all the restraint a woman should have as her beautiful eyes stared fixedly at the naked Eunuch Lin. She hurriedly covered her mouth to prevent herself from screaming out loud. This woman has really turned a eunuch into a real man? How is this possible? Even my master could not do such a thing. How did this woman manage to do it? At this moment, Mu Wuxuan's body began to tremble violently. Her elegant features were now completely pale and colorless. Eunuch Lin, Gao Tu rose to his feet abruptly and exclaimed angrily, "How dare you? You actually hid in our harem as a man. What are your intentions?" Thump! Eunuch Lin was so frightened that he fell to his knees and spoke in a trembling voice. "Your Imperial Majesty, this servant has been wrongly accused. This servant has really undergone the punishment of castration. However, I don't know what's going on. It has grown back on its own." Eunuch Lin, there's no need for you to say anything more. You must have escaped the punishment. Guards, drag Eunuch Lin away and behead him in public. A murderous intent flashed in Gao Tu's eyes as he ordered sternly. Based on Gao Tu's point of view, Eunuch Lin must have escaped the punishment of castration. That was why he now has the characteristics of man. This could not be the effect of Yin Luofeng's medicine. Seeing the two guards walking over, Eunuch Lin's body softened and he collapsed to the ground. His face was filled with despair. He knew that His Majesty wouldn't acknowledge Yin Luofeng's ability and would only use him as an example. Gao Tu turned and looked at Luofeng, from Luo Feng I Lin Luo Feng I and Luo Feng I Luo I from the punishment from Luo Lin Lin and Luo Chen Hu Lin. This competition does not count. You can choose another day to compete with Mu Wuxuan again. Yun Luo Feng gently raised her brows. She never thought that Gao Tu would shamelessly deny everything. He had even directly judged that eunuch Lin had escaped the punishment of castration. His motive was to protect Mu Wuxuan. Suddenly, Yin Luo Feng wanted to know what benefits the Prime Minister's residence had given him to cause him to act in such an unreasonable manner. Chapter 141. Since you claim that eunuch Lin has escaped the punishment of castration, then I shall castrate you. Yin Luo Feng smiled devilishly. The sword in her hand suddenly left her hand, and with a slash, it sliced through eunuch Lin's penis. As her eyes were still blindfolded by Yun Xiao, this attack was completely based on instinct. Ark! A heart-wrenching scream pierced through the air, bringing with it a hair-raising, mournful shriek. Eunuch Lin immediately fainted from the pain. Fresh blood continued to gush from his lower body, staining the ground red. The young girl's cruel and decisive methods caused the officials to shiver. They never thought that she would castrate eunuch Lin in front of everyone. Yin Luo Feng. Gao Tu was thoroughly enraged. He suddenly stood up and said sternly, "What are you doing?" As if he did not sense Gao Tu's anger, Yin Luo Feng said unhurriedly, "Elder Rong, please prepare another bowl of medicine and force it into his mouth. This time, I have already castrated eunuch Lin in front of everyone, so that certain people will no longer have any excuse." Elder Rong recovered from his shock and laughed out loud. "Little girl, there's still some medicine left. I'll go get it for you." This girl is decisive in killing and never shows mercy to her enemies. Her future achievements will be immeasurable. As soon as he finished speaking, he quickly walked out of the great hall and soon disappeared under the blazing sun. A moment later, Elder Rong, who was carrying a bowl of medicine, strode into the great hall. Without another word, he walked in front of eunuch Lin and held his chin tightly with his fingers, forcing the bowl of medicine into his mouth. Cough, cough. The eunuch choked and coughed a few times, slowly regaining consciousness. At the same time, Yun Luofeng's fist once again landed fiercely on his body. With a slash, he spat out a mouthful of blood, and his already pale face turned even paler. After this ordeal, eunuch Lin seemed to have aged a few decades, and his gaze gradually became unfocused. All the officials stared fixedly at eunuch Lin, unblinking, afraid that they would miss something. Even Mu Wuxuan did not care about the difference between men and women, his gaze landing on eunuch Lin's crotch. Under everyone's gazes, eunuch Lin's blood-stained crotch was like a bean sprout that was beginning to sprout. The entire hall quieted down along with the changes in his body. It was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Bang! Gao Tu's body landed heavily on the dragon throne. His face was ashen as he stared at the dazed eunuch Lin. He thought about how laughable his words were. Impossible, this can't be true. Mu Xingqiu was the first to react. His body trembled as he staggered backwards. He stared at eunuch Lin in disbelief. A eunuch could become a man? He had never heard of such a thing. If Yin Luo Feng had not castrated eunuch Lin in front of them, perhaps they would have been like Gao Tu and believed that eunuch Lin had avoided the castration and not because of the medicine. In an instant, all the officials in the hall looked towards Yin Luo Feng, their eyes burning with passion. Just how great of a medical skill was needed to make a eunuch grow into a man. Forget about Mu Wuxuan. Even her master did not have such a powerful ability. It was laughable that Mu Wuxuan had used a lecturing tone to speak to Yin Luo Feng. Chapter 142. Your Majesty, this time my granddaughter has won the bet. Shouldn't you ask the Prime Minister's residents to fulfill their promise? Yun Luochio's eyes were filled with pride as he asked in a bright voice. At this moment, Gao Tu's expression was rather disheveled as he slumped onto the dragon throne. His gaze slowly turned towards Mu Xingqiu and his grandson, and he said weakly, "Prime Minister Mu, tomorrow you will personally go to the graves of Yin Luofeng's parents and kneel down to apologize to them. Also, write a letter of guilt and paste it on the city walls." Mu Xingqiu's face was ashen. As he lowered his head, a fierce look flashed across his eyes. Your Majesty, your Majesty. At this time, Gao Tu could not show favoritism towards him, so he could only lower his stance. However, he would remember this debt. One day he would repay this damn girl, Yin Luofeng. I'm tired. All of you can leave. Gao Tu closed his eyes tiredly. His heart was filled with bitterness. No matter how he thought about it, he would never have thought that Yin Luofeng was really a doctor and had such extraordinary medical skills. If he had known earlier, he would not have sided with the Prime Minister's residence and offended such a genius doctor. At this moment, Gao Tu finally understood the meaning of Elder Rong's words. Compared to Yin Luofeng, Mu Wushuang was really nothing. Elder Ning. Yin Luofeng raised an eyebrow and turned to face Elder Ning. The corners of his lips curled into an evil smile. Hand over all the things you've found these past few years to the Prime Minister's residence. Have them write down their crimes according to the contents. I want everything. Half a year ago, she had asked Elder Ning to investigate all the crimes of the Prime Minister's residence. Just for today, she would make the people from the Prime Minister's residence admit to everything they had done in front of everyone. Also, the smile on Yin Luofeng's face did not change. Instead, it became even more evil. It's not enough for the Prime Minister's residence to just paste the letter of guilt on the city gates. I want the Prime Minister's residence to read out the contents of the letter of guilt in front of all the citizens of Long Yuan country. Yin Luofeng. Mu Xingqiu clenched his fists in anger. A wave of anger almost burst out from his chest. Don't go too far. Could it be that your Prime Minister's mansion can afford to gamble, but can't afford to lose? Yin Luofeng cast a sidelong glance at the ashen-faced Mu Xingqiu. Since that's the case, Yin Xiao, take these people to the city gates tomorrow and force them to confess their crimes. If they refuse to talk no matter what, beat them until they are willing to talk. Yin Luofeng, how dare you? I am an important minister of the imperial court. What qualifications do you have to kidnap me? Mu Xingqiu's eyes were filled with intense killing intent as he asked fiercely. Yin Luofeng smiled evilly. So what if you're an important official of the court? I, Yin Luofeng, never fear anyone when I do things. If you don't believe it, you can give it a try. Mu Xingqiu clenched his fists tightly. His body trembled in anger. His eyes were spitting fire as he stared fixedly at the girl's lazy yet demonic figure. The killing intent in his eyes intensified. If he had known earlier, he would have killed this little slut before Yin Luo returned to the imperial court. But how could he have known that a good-for-nothing whom he had looked down on would actually cause so much trouble? Mu Xingqiu, I didn't expect that apart from being shameless, you old thief, you would also go back on your word. Yin Luofeng laughed loudly. It was obvious that he was in a good mood. However, since you've agreed to do something, you must do it. If you're unwilling to do so, I won't use any forceful methods. Chapter 143. Mu Xingqiu was so angry that he couldn't even speak. He subconsciously looked at Gao Tu's day. When he saw that Gao Tu's eyes were still closed and he didn't care about their dispute, his heart slowly sank into despair. Yin Luofeng. Mu Wushuang suppressed the jealousy in her heart and stared coldly at Yin Luofeng. Her beautiful eyes flashed fiercely. I, Mu Wushuang, am willing to concede defeat. I promise you that I will go to the city gates tomorrow, but I hope you won't regret what happened today. In this Long Yuan country, without the protection of the royal family, she would never be able to fight against the Yun family. The reason for this was none other than the existence of Yin Luo in the Yun family. As long as Yin Luo didn't die, she would never be able to destroy this slut, Yin Luofeng. Now, whenever she thought of Yin Luofeng's medical skills, Mu Wushuang felt as if a claw was fiercely scratching her heart. It was extremely uncomfortable. If she didn't get rid of him, she would never be at ease for the rest of her life. All right, I'll be waiting for you at the city gates tomorrow. After Yin Luofeng had finished speaking, she stretched lazily. She moved her shoulders and curled the corners of her lips seductively. Yin Xiao, let's go home. After saying this, she slowly turned around and walked out of the main hall. The afterglow of the setting sun poured down and fell on the girl's snow-white dress. It was so beautiful that it could take one's breath away. Yun Xiao was like a loyal bodyguard, following by Yun Luofeng's side from the very beginning. The man's face was always expressionless, so grim that it was as if nothing could move him. Elder Ning laughed and looked meaningfully at the backs of the two young men as they left. He then said meaningfully, "I'm very curious. Where did the Yun girl get her luck to pick up such a man? General Yun, this time your Yun family is really lucky, haha." After laughing twice, he walked out of the main hall, leaving behind a dumbfounded Yun Luo. Ever since the incident in the main hall spread, Yun Luo Feng's name suddenly spread throughout the entire Long Yuan country. To describe it in 4 words, she became famous as a doctor. Those who had previously mocked and ridiculed her immediately changed their attitudes and wished that they could kneel down and lick her boots. So what if Yun Luo Feng couldn't cultivate? She was a miracle doctor. With the reputation of being a divine doctor, it was unknown how many experts were willing to protect her. She could basically travel unimpeded on the continent. Even though Yun Luo Feng had saved Elder Ning by the Qin River that day, many people still held a skeptical attitude. But now, so many officials from the imperial palace had gone to General Yun's residence to curry favor with him. One could imagine the shock that Yun Luo Feng brought to them. At this moment, Mu Xingqiu and Mu Wuxuan of the Prime Minister's residence were standing at the entrance of the imperial city with embarrassed expressions on their faces. Behind them, a group of guards stood as still as a mountain, giving them nowhere to escape. They could only accept the astonished and shocked gazes of the people around them. Everyone, Yun Luo Feng swept her gaze across the 2 people who were standing in a sorry state. She then turned her gaze towards the crowd of onlookers. Her beautiful face was filled with arrogance and coldness. "I believe that all of you know what happened to the general's residence 10 years ago. 10 years ago?" Hearing this sensitive number, the crowd started to whisper among themselves. Their astonished gazes occasionally glanced at Mu Xingqiu and his grandson. 10 years ago, my parents led the army to war. However, because Prime Minister Mu Xingqiu was greedy for women, they fell into the enemy's trap. This resulted in the leak of intelligence and caused my parents to die on the battlefield. Yun Luofeng's brows showed a deep sense of pain. Her voice also became increasingly sharp. But Mu Xingqiu, that old thief, refused to repent no matter what. Not only did he not admit to his mistakes, he even believed that my parents had committed evil deeds and that this was their fate. Chapter 144. The young lady's words were sharp, causing Mu Xingqiu to lower his head, almost burying it in the dust. What happened 10 years ago was not unfamiliar to the people of Long Yuan country. However, due to the influence of the Prime Minister's office, no one dared to speak up for the Prime Minister's office. "What do you mean by doing evil and being fated to be like this?" Yun Luo Feng laughed. Her laughter was filled with arrogance and rang out once again at the city gate. "I only know that good people do not live long, while evil people live for 1,000 years. My parents were killed by that old bastard Mu Xingqiu, who knew that he would not feel any remorse after killing my parents. Hence, today, I will make Mu Xingqiu confess all the evil deeds he has done over the years to avenge my parents." "Good." Someone in the crowd started clapping, and the others followed suit. At this moment, everyone's emotions were stirred up. Major General Yun is young and talented, and the young madam is valiant and heroic. They are both heroes in our hearts. I don't believe that such heroes would lose their lives on the battlefield because of their evil deeds. They were killed by Mu Xingqiu in order to protect the country. That's right. So many heroes have died on the battlefield. Could it be that their lives were taken because of their evil deeds? I have an uncle who lost his life on the battlefield, but he was a good man. I don't believe that the heavens can take an evil people. If the heavens had eyes, there wouldn't have been so many wars. Looking at the angry crowd, Yun Luo Feng raised the corner of her lips slightly. Of course, she recognized the person who led the applause. That person was obviously the odd job worker of the medical pavilion. Needless to say, This person must have been sent by Elder Roan. Miss Yun, we should make them kneel down and apologize to Major General Yun. Yes, we must make them apologize. If they don't, they should pay with their lives for Major General Yun and the young madam. The reaction of the crowd was very intense. At this moment, they had thrown away all their misgivings. Some of them even spat at Mu Xingqiu, who was in a sorry state. Of course, Yin Luofeng also understood that it was precisely because these people had seen Mu Xingqiu's sorry state that they dared to step forward. If they were to face the high-spirited Prime Minister Mu, it was likely that they would not even dare to say a single word. Don't worry, Yin Luofeng raised his hand and silenced the angry voices of the crowd. I've asked them to come here now because the medical pavilion has investigated the crimes that the Mu family has committed over the years. Once this matter is over, I will make them personally go to my parents' grave and apologize. Actually, these things were all investigated by Elder Ning. However, the people did not know Elder Ning's identity. Therefore, Yin Luofeng brought up the medical pavilion. With the reputation of the medical pavilion, no one would doubt the truth of the matter. Mu Xingqiu's expression was very ugly, especially when someone had spat on him when he wasn't paying attention. The spit even had a disgusting stench that made people want to vomit. Mu Xingqiu, Yin Luofeng turned around and looked at Mu Xingqiu. Take out your book of crimes and report all the crimes that you have committed over the years. If there is even one missing, I will cut off one of your arms. Mu Xingqiu's body shivered violently. His hand trembled gently, and he almost dropped the book of crimes in his hand. Chapter 145. I, Mu Xingqiu, have committed many mistakes over the years. Mu Xingqiu's voice trembled. What I regret the most is my lust for beauty, causing Major General Yun and young madam to die on the battlefield. I can never make up for this mistake. Mu Xingqiu's face became more and more unsightly. The hand that was holding the book trembled more and more, and his eyes were full of despair. Secondly, when I was young, I had an affair with my sister-in-law and was accidentally discovered by my brother. In order not to spread this matter, I poisoned and murdered my brother. I told the public that he had contracted an illness and died. Wow, the crowd was in an uproar. No matter how they thought about it, Mu Xingqiu not only had an affair with his sister-in-law, but also murdered his own brother. Why didn't God punish such a person who was worse than an animal? Just as Yin Luofeng had said, good people don't live long, but scourges last for thousands of years. Compared to Major General Yun, who served the country and the people, Mu Xingqiu was the one who was truly guilty. Thirdly, because my father and mother suspected the cause of my brother's death, I was afraid that they wouldn't forgive me if they knew, so I acted first and killed them. To the public, I said that my father and mother couldn't bear the death of my brother, so they hanged themselves. The crowd was once again shocked by Mu Xingqiu's words. They thought that Mu Xingqiu was cruel enough to have an affair with his sister-in-law and brother, but they didn't expect that he would even kill his own parents. How could such a person still be alive in this world? The heavens are really blind. Next, every time Mu Xingqiu reported his crimes, the shock in the hearts of the crowd deepened. This Mu Xingqiu killed his brother and father, had an affair with his sister-in-law, and committed all sorts of crimes. There wasn't a single thing he hadn't done. It could be said that he had committed all the crimes that could be committed. Not a single one was left out. Mu Xingqiu's face turned from livid to pale, and in the end, it was as pale as a dead man's face. Until even he himself became numb. Like a machine, he only knew how to read according to the book, not missing a single word. After he had reported more than 100 crimes one by one, the entire street in front of the city gate became quiet. It was so quiet that even the sound of the breeze could be heard clearly. Mu Wushuang, it's your turn. Yin Luofeng turned her head to look at Mu Wushuang. The corners of her lips curled up into a demonic smile. Do you plan on confessing your crimes yourself? Or do you want me to help you? The help she was talking about was, of course, brute force. If Mu Wushuang insists on not confessing, she doesn't mind using brute force to make him accept. Mu Wushuang's face turned deathly pale in an instant. He bit his lip and silently looked at Yin Luofeng. Mu Wushuang? Did Mu Wushuang also make mistakes? This was impossible. Mu Xingqiu had indeed committed many evil deeds, but what did this have to do with Mu Wuxuan? Mu Wuxuan is elegant and kind. It's impossible for him to do evil things. Tis tsk. Haven't you heard of the saying, you may know a person's face, but not his heart? The medical pavilion has great prestige in the mainland. Since this matter was investigated by them, it cannot be false. After Yin Luofeng's words rang out, the quiet city gate became lively once again. The crowd whispered to each other, and their eyes revealed astonishment. Mu Xingqiu, with the exception of Mu Wuxuan, was not a good person. Everyone knew that Mu Xingqiu was shameless and lustful. For the sake of beauty, he leaked information and dragged down Major, General Yun, and his wife. Mu Wuchen, the eldest young master of the Mu clan, was indifferent, arrogant, cruel, and merciless. He did not put the world in his eyes at all. The second young master, Mu Shun, was a legitimate playboy. He often let a group of people out to cause trouble. Last time, he was severely beaten up by the Yin clan's guards who were protecting Yin Luofeng. Only Mu Wuxuan, who was elegant and kind, had not done any evil deeds. How could the world believe that he also had a book of crimes? Chapter 146. At the noisy gate of the city, after the crowd's discussion, Mu Wuxuan clenched the confession book in his hand, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Today's humiliation, one day, I will return it to Yin Luofeng. Thinking of this, Mu Wuxuan suppressed the anger in his heart and opened the book in his hand. I, Mu Wuxuan, have committed heinous crimes and have killed countless people. Killed countless people? Boom! Mu Wuxuan's words were like a sudden clap of thunder. Everyone's hearts were fiercely shaken. They stared dumbfoundedly at the pale-faced Mu Wuxuan. For a moment, they even suspected that there was something wrong with their ears. Facing the astonished gazes of the crowd, Mu Wuxuan kept his head down. His hand that was holding the book trembled slightly. Not only did I secretly send a message to the Crown Prince half a year ago, asking him to find a man to frame Yin Luofeng on the streets for molesting a beautiful man, causing Yin Luofeng's reputation to go down the drain. I also secretly executed some of the women who pester the Crown Prince in Long Yuan country and pushed the blame on others. I was the one who spread Yin Luofeng's reputation of having big breasts and no brains, and being a lecherous love-struck fool. My goal was to make her break off the engagement with the Crown Prince so that I could become the Crown Princess of Long Yuan country. And 10 years ago, I was also the one who made my master ignore Yun Xingya of the Yun family. Most importantly, I have a half-sister, and once I accidentally discovered that she was infatuated with the Crown Prince, so my sister also died in my hands. The people of Long Yuan country did remember that there was a second miss in the Prime Minister's mansion. This second miss was not as intelligent as Mu Wuxuan, nor was she a direct descendant of the Crown Prince. She was born of a concubine, so not many people care about her death. But what they didn't expect was that the second miss of the Prime Minister's mansion was actually killed by Mu Wuxuan. This everyone was shocked. If Mu Xingqiu's actions made them sigh endlessly, then Mu Wuxuan's actions made them unable to believe it. No one could believe that this elegant and dignified first miss of the Prime Minister's mansion was actually someone who killed her own sister. Yin Luofeng smiled faintly. She glanced at the crowd and saw a deathly pale face among the crowd. In the crowd, Mu Shun took 2 steps back. His pale face was full of anger as he glared at Mu Wuxuan. So she was the one who killed Shui. She killed my little sister, Murong Shui, for the sake of the Crown Prince. Mu Shun's heart was filled with hatred. A raging fire burned his heart. The people of Long Yuan Nation seemed to have forgotten that the second miss of the Prime Minister's mansion and Mu Shun were both born from the same mother. Now that he heard such explosive news, how could he not feel hatred in his heart? The people nearby could even hear the sound of Mu Shun grinding his teeth. You killed your sister. I wonder if Mu Xingqiu knows about this. Yun Luofeng's lips curved into a faint smile. His demonic gaze gradually swept towards the ashen-faced Mu Xingqiu as he asked. Mu Wuxuan's face was also deathly pale. She glanced at Mu Xingqiu, gritted her teeth, and said, My grandfather. He knows. Morong Shui is only the daughter of a concubine. I'm the daughter of the legal wife. Do you think that my grandfather would be biased toward the daughter of a concubine? Hearing Mu Wushuang's words, Yin Luofeng gently narrowed her eyes. An evil glint flashed across her dark pupils. The two of you are really worthy of being called grandfather and granddaughter. One stole from his sister-in-law and killed his brother. The other didn't even spare his own sister. Indeed, even animals have become a family. Chapter 147. Mu Wushuan's heart completely collapsed. She glared fiercely at Yin Luofeng. Her originally elegant and dignified face now looked extremely sinister. Yin Luofeng, you will pay for what you've done to me today. Yin Luofeng smiled evilly as he leaned lazily against the grim man behind him. He then glanced sideways at the ashen-faced Mu Wushuan and said, "In this world, only I, Yin Luofeng, can scheme against others. No one has ever been able to scheme against me. I'll be waiting for you to come and settle the score with me." As soon as she finished speaking, her face turned solemn, and she ordered with a sneer, "Yin Xiao, tie these two up and send them to my parents' grave. My old man has been waiting there for a long time." "All right." The man's grim eyes retracted from the beautiful girl's body and stared expressionlessly at Mu Xingqiu and Mu Wushuan. A cold, murderous intent flashed across his deep, black eyes. "Stop, what are you doing? I'm a minister of the imperial court, and you're just a little guard." Mu Xingqiu was frightened by the man's imposing manner. He felt that this man not only wants to tie him up, but also wants to kill him. Fear rose in his heart, and he involuntarily took a step back. However, before he could turn around and escape, he was picked up by the man like a chicken. His face immediately turned pale with fright. "Let's go." Yin Luofeng looked at the two people in Yun Zhao's hands and yawned lazily. He then turned around and walked towards the city gate. After the figures of these people had disappeared, the crowd at the city gate once again burst into a clamor of discussion. Sure enough, one may know a person's face, but not their heart. I never thought that the elegant and dignified eldest lady of the Mu family would be such a person. Her sister was only infatuated with the crown prince and had no intention of getting the crown prince. In the end, she actually killed her sister. Didn't you hear what she said just now? Previously, Yin Luofeng of the Yun family had molested a handsome man in the street. TSK. I really didn't expect Mu Wushuan to be such a person. I reckon that when this matter spreads out, the crown prince will no longer want her. That's right. A scheming bitch like Mu Wushuan is not worthy of being the mother of the nation. Outside the city, surrounded by pine trees, two mausoleums stood quietly at the top of the mountain. On top of the mausoleum, the tombstones carved with cinnabar were very eye-catching, as if they had been painted with fresh blood. The white-haired old man crawled on the ground. His trembling fingers gently stroked the words on the tombstone. His eyes revealed a deep pain. It was a pity that young General Yun Yang, a young and talented man, had been buried in the battlefield. Young Mistress Bai Ling, a heroine among women, had risked her life for the country with Major General Yun and had been buried in the battlefield with him. Feng your parents' wish when they were alive was to be buried here together after they died. They wanted to be far away from the noise of the world and ignore the smoke of war in the world. Now, it can be said that their wish has been fulfilled. In this forest, no one could disturb them. Yin Luo closed his eyes slightly. Until now, he could still recall the war report he had received from the front line more than a decade ago. It said that Yun Yang and his wife had died on the battlefield, and the heart-wrenching pain they had felt. Before the pain in his heart could subside, he had to fight in place of his son to protect this land and its people. But in the end, what did he get in return? He couldn't avenge his eldest son and daughter-in-law, and his youngest son was also plotted against, living in a secret chamber without any light. As for him, he had left his granddaughter to go to the border for 10 years, but he had never been able to compete with imperial concubine Mu's pillow talk in the emperor's ear. Chapter 148. How could such a lecherous and incapable ruler be worthy of his loyalty? Yin Luofeng slowly walked towards the tombstone and stared at the carvings on the tombstone with her dark eyes. She seemed to be reminded of the respectable couple on the battlefield. "Father, mother, I've come to see you." She was not the real Yin Luofeng. She was only borrowing the power of this body to continue living. However, it was because she had merged with this body that her feelings had gradually shifted towards the original body. "Don't worry, I will avenge you sooner or later. Whether it's the Prime Minister's mansion, the muddle-headed and tyrannical dog of an emperor, or the person who had truly killed you, I will avenge them all." The young girl's words caused a sense of relief to appear in Master Dongfang's eyes. He then turned towards Mu Xingqiu and his grandson, who had been escorted to the tombstone. His elderly features instantly sank. "Mu Xingqiu, you old thief, I never thought that this day would come for you." "Ha ha ha ha." Yun Luo burst into laughter. His smile was refreshed, and his eyes were filled with malevolence. "Get out of here. You." Mu Xingqiu was enraged. Just as he was about to retort against the old man, a heavy kick landed fiercely on the back of his knees. Caught off guard, he knelt heavily on the ground. Humiliation. This was a great humiliation. Mu Xingqiu's head was pressed against the ground. He could not help but clench his fists tightly. His eyes were filled with humiliation and anger. Ever since he had risen to power, he had never suffered such humiliation. He would remember this debt. One day, he would make everyone in the general's mansion kneel before him and beg for mercy. "Younger, Linger, can your spirits in heaven see this?" Yin Luo raised his head towards the sky and roared in delight. "That year, this dog had leaked information and caused your deaths. However, the emperor had forgotten your contributions and chosen a side with this dog. Now, I'll make them kneel and kowtow 1,000 times in front of you. I hope that your souls can rest in peace." As he spoke, a stream of muddy tears rolled down the old man's face. How many years has it been? How many years had he waited for this day? He would never forget that year, when he went to complain to His Majesty. His Majesty only said one sentence: "Since it has already happened, it is useless to pursue it." Moreover, Minister Mu did not do it on purpose. How about this? Let him apologize to you. The dead cannot come back to life, so please restrain your grief. Apologize? He had caused the deaths of his son and daughter-in-law. How could a simple apology be enough? Therefore, in his rage, he summoned all the soldiers at the border and razed Mu Xingqiu's mansion to the ground. From then on, he didn't want to interfere with the country's war, but when he heard that the people at the border were living in dire straits, he had no choice but to take command and lead the troops into battle. Grandfather, Yin Luofeng looked at the old man who could no longer control his emotions and quickly stepped forward to support his body. His brows furrowed as he said, "It's getting late. I'll take you back to rest. After this, I'll get Yin Xiao to supervise them as they kowtow 1,000 times." "Very well." Yin Luofeng closed his eyes slightly. Although he had waited a long time for this scene today, his heart still felt like it was being crushed by a huge rock, suffocating him. If he could, he wished that he had never been a general. That way, Yin Yang and his wife would not have died on the battlefield. As they walked out of the pine forest, Yin Luofeng slowly came to a halt. His dark eyes stared at the old man beside him and asked, "Grandfather, do you blame me for not taking Mu Xingqiu's life directly?" Chapter 149. Yin Luo shook his head slightly and sighed. "I know you must have your reasons for not killing them. Grandfather will not ask." This girl, no matter what she did, he was at ease. "Grandfather, have you ever wondered why the Dog Emperor is so biased towards the Prime Minister's residence?" Yin Luofeng stroked his chin, a trace of deep thought in his eyes. "Prime Minister Mu leaked military intelligence, causing my parents to die in battle. It is reasonable to say that Prime Minister Mu's behavior is already a crime of treason. Even if the Dog Emperor likes imperial concubine Mu, there is no reason to protect him." Yin Luo was stunned. He turned to look at Yin Luofeng in astonishment, his eyes clearly filled with doubt. "I really haven't considered this matter. Indeed, Mu Xingqiu's crime was treason, but not only did he not punish Prime Minister Mu, he even sided with him. Was it really because the emperor doted on imperial consort Mu?" Yin Luofeng smiled evilly. "Also, I helped eunuch Lin regain his manly features. If it was an ordinary emperor, he would rather believe in my abilities than announce that eunuch Lin escaped the punishment of castration. In the imperial harem, what does it mean to have a man who has not been castrated? It means that he is a cuckold. Would the emperor be so stupid as to let himself wear a cuckold? Anyone could understand the significance of a man who had not been castrated remaining in the imperial harem as a eunuch. So, even if Gao Tu did not believe in her abilities, he would choose to believe her at this time. But he, in order to side with Mu Wu Xuan, would rather let himself wear a cuckold? Yin Luo Feng could not help but ponder over this matter. Fenger, according to what you've said, it's true. Yin Luo fell silent for a moment before returning to his senses. Gao Tu is too biased towards the Mu family. If it wasn't for some reason, I would never believe it. So, that dog Mu Xingqiu cannot be touched for now. A murderous glint flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes. However, I can swear that one day I will use Mu Xingqiu's head as a sacrifice to my parents. I will also make the unreasonable, biased Gao Tu roll down from his high position. Good. Yin Luo laughed out loud and patted Yun Luofeng's shoulder. You're truly worthy of being a descendant of my Yin family. My Yin family members can lack other things, but they must have confidence and ambition. I believe that your achievements in the future will definitely be very high. Looking at the old man's relaxed expression, Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a devilish smile. In a few days, the red arbor tree would bear spirit fruits. It was time for her to give this old man 2 surprises. The next day, in the rear courtyard of the Yun family, a young girl lay lazily on a chaise longue. She held a grape in her hand and carefully removed the seeds from it before placing the sparkling, translucent grape into her mouth. I wonder what will happen if I plant these fruit trees in the divine grimoire space. The corners of Yin Luofeng's lips curled up into a devilish smile. Of course, she was only thinking about it. Who knew that just as she had this thought, a young and tender voice would ring out from within her soul. If you eat up Yin Shao completely, I will tell you that fruit trees can also be planted. Xiao Mo's voice sounded a little angry. It had been more than half a year, and his master had not made any progress at all. He was about to die from anxiety. Oh, Yun Luo Feng gently raised an eyebrow. But you've already told me. What should I do? Chapter 150. In her soul, there was a moment of silence. Then, she heard a loud wail, causing her soul to tremble. Wah, master, I don't want to talk to you anymore, you big jerk. The adorable little fellow cried and threw a tantrum before cutting off all contact with Yin Luo Feng and ignoring her in a fit of pique. However, Yin Luo Feng could see the little fellow squatting in a corner and drawing circles, his adorable face filled with grief. Just as Yin Luo Feng was about to console him, a familiar figure entered her line of sight. Her lips curled into a smile. Yin Shao, have you completed your mission? The man nodded grimly. 1,000 kowtows, not one less. Just 100 kowtows was enough to make a person bleed. Hence, one could imagine Mu Xingqiu's tragic state. He would probably need to rest for a long time after this incident. My lady. Suddenly, a maidservant hurried in. His Highness the Crown Prince is here to visit. The Crown Prince? Yin Luo Feng raised an evil brow. Let him in. Yes, my lady. After reporting, the maidservant hurried out. Not long after, a handsome young man dressed in green robes appeared before her eyes. The young man's face was pale, and he looked exhausted. His sharp black eyes stared at Yin Luo Feng, who was lying on the chaise longue, and a complicated look appeared in his eyes. Yin Luo Feng, did you do this on purpose? Gao Ling clenched his fists tightly. The first thing he had said to Yin Luo Feng was not to beg for her to heal him, nor was it to beg for her forgiveness. Instead, it was a question. I did it on purpose. What can you do to me? What can you do to me? The young girl's tone was arrogant and domineering, as if she had no regard for this man, who was the dream lover of thousands of girls in Long Yuan country. You. Gao Ling's handsome face turned ashen, and he spat angrily. You knew that I would regret this in the future. That's why you made me promise not to pester you that day by the Qin River. Am I right? This woman did it on purpose. She had lied to me so that I would not pester her in the future. Yun Luofeng glanced at Gao Ling's remorseful face, raised the corners of his lips, and said, "Looks like I have good foresight." Gao Ling's heart trembled violently. That's right, Yun Luofeng was still a piece of trash who couldn't cultivate. However, based on her medical skills, she was qualified to become his crown princess. How could he let her go just like that? Furthermore, Elder Rong from the medical pavilion was full of admiration for this genius physician. Gao Ling was regretting his decision. Yun Luofeng. Gao Ling took a few steps towards Yun Luofeng and said arrogantly, "You've loved me for so many years. You can't possibly become heartless just because you want to. I know that I'm still in your heart. You just don't want to admit it. No problem. This prince will fulfill my original promise and marry you." Yin Luofeng smiled. "What about Mu Wushuang?" Gao Ling was taken aback. After a moment of silence, he said, "I will marry both of you at the same time. Are you satisfied? You want to hug them on both sides? That's not a bad idea." Yin Luofeng laughed icily. Her tone was unruly and her expression was insolent. "Unfortunately, Yin Luofeng, will never share my man with anyone else. My man can only have me as his woman. If he dares to touch anyone else, I will cripple this pair of adulterers." Chapter 151. Yin Luofeng. Gao Ling could no longer suppress the anger in his chest. He clenched his fists and said, "That's impossible. It's normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. No man would choose to marry only one woman. Marry me, and I'll give you the honorable status of being the mother of the world. You'll be revered by all." The corners of Yin Luofeng's lips curled up into a devilish smile. Her voice was calm, so calm that it caused a storm to rise in one's heart. "If that's the case, I'd rather not marry for the rest of my life." She'd rather not marry for the rest of her life than to share a man with someone else. Just how much courage did one have to make a woman say such words that went against the world? Yun Xiao glanced coldly at Gao Ling, who was about to explode in anger. He silently removed the grape seeds and brought the sparkling, jade-like grape to Yun Luofeng's lips. From the beginning to the end, he had never placed Gao Ling in his eyes. The young girl narrowed her eyes, and her red lips gently sucked on the grape. She even swallowed the man's finger. A devilish smile appeared on her beautiful face, and her warm tongue licked the man's finger. She stretched lazily and reclined on the chaise longue. With a smile that did not reach her eyes, she said, "There are rumors in the outside world that I, Yin Luofeng, am extremely lustful. Even though Mu Wushuang has proven that he was the one who spread these rumors, it's still very true. With such a perfect man by my side, do you think I'll continue to like you?" Gao Ling had noticed Yun Zhao's presence ever since he had entered the Yun family's backyard. However, he had deliberately avoided looking at him. Honestly, when he saw this man who stood beside Yin Luofeng like a mountain, a sense of inferiority arose from the depths of his heart. He did not know where this feeling of inferiority came from. He only felt that this cold man's aura was too strong and his features were so perfect that it made him jealous. That was why he had chosen to ignore him. However, when he heard Yin Luofeng's words, Gao Ling felt a surge of anger in his chest. He turned his gaze towards the expressionless man and spat fiercely. "Yin Luofeng, he's just a guard. Based on his status, he's not worthy of you. So what if this man's aura is strong? A guard was a guard. There was simply no comparison between them. Is that so?" Yin Luofeng raised her eyebrows slightly. She stretched lazily and stood up from the chaise longue. Then, she tugged on Yin Zhao's shirt forcefully and pulled him in front of her. She raised her head and kissed the man's cold lips. The man was startled at first. Then he recalled the contents of the erotic pictures. He subconsciously hugged the girl in front of him and somewhat awkwardly responded to the girl's kiss. "Looks like you've seen the contents of the erotic pictures?" Yun Luofeng pushed the man away and narrowed his eyes. A dangerous arc flashed across his eyes. Yin Xiao thought that she was angry. Her heart tightened, but she still nodded honestly. "If you don't like it, I can throw it away." Yin Luofeng smiled, and her stern expression disappeared along with her smile. Her lips curled into a demonic smile as she patted Yun Zhao's shoulder encouragingly. Not bad. You are worth teaching. You are much more mature than before. If it was the Yun Xiao from half a year ago, she reckoned that he would have fled the moment she kissed him. Have you seen enough? Yun Luofeng swept her gaze towards Gao Ling and smiled at the young man's eyes, which were filled with anger. If you've seen enough, you can get lost. I'm not interested in showing others a live version of the erotic pictures. Chapter 152. Gao Ling's face was ashen as he spat angrily. Yin Luofeng, you've actually degenerated yourself into an illicit relationship with a guard. You have no sense of shame. You're absolutely despicable. This crown prince must have been blind to want to save a whore like you. It's not like I don't have any other women besides you. Based on my noble status, countless women have sent themselves to my bed. Don't regret losing me. He was nearly driven mad with anger. This woman is actually flirting with a guard right in front of me. Furthermore, she would rather choose a lowly guard than me, be it in terms of status or power. I'm definitely more powerful than this guard. Yin Luofeng will regret losing the chance to become the crown prince's consort. Likewise, Yin Luofeng curled his lips and retorted, however, let me remind you, you've slept with so many women. If one day you come down with a venereal disease, don't come begging for me to treat you. I won't treat anyone from the imperial family. The young girl's words brought Gao Ling back to his senses. How could he have forgotten that his main purpose for coming here was to treat his illness? In the end, he had been so angered by these two lovey-dovey that he had forgotten his original purpose. Even the people from Medical Pavilion had said that Yin Luofeng was the only one who could treat him. He could not give up on this opportunity. Yin Luofeng, was it you that caused me to lose all of my spiritual power? I'll give you a chance now. Treat me, and we'll call it even. The more Gao Ling thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible. That day by the Qin River, Yin Luofeng must have done something to him, which was why he had lost all his spiritual power. Yin Luofeng sneered. I've said it before, I won't treat you. You. Gao Ling was about to curse, but he swallowed his words. His face was ashen as he said, I'm the crown prince of the empire. You're the general's daughter. I order you to treat me. Order? Yin Luofeng raised an eyebrow. Do you know what price the people from the medical pavilion had to pay to come to me? Not only did they offer me a red tree, they even asked me to treat you in a polite manner. You want me to treat you with a single order? Ridiculous, too ridiculous. Jailing's words sounded like a joke. Yin Luofeng laughed out loud. Jailing, 10 years ago, my second uncle was seriously injured. My father went to the palace to save him. He even knelt before the royal doctor, but your people didn't do anything. What right do you have to ask me to save you? Unless your father personally kneels in front of my old man, I might consider it. 10 years ago, Gao Tu only needed to say one word, and second uncle wouldn't have to be paralyzed for 10 years. It was a pity that Gao Tu's words never came. Therefore, if she wanted him to save Gao Ling, she might consider it if Gao Tu knelt in front of old Master Gao himself. However, this was only a consideration. It was not certain whether he would help. Yin Luofeng, don't go overboard. My father is the emperor, and Yin Luo is only a subject. If the monarch wants the minister to die, the minister has no choice but to die. If my father wanted to kill Yin Luo, he would only need to say the word. If it weren't for the fact that Yin Luo has guarded the borders for so many years, your words today would be enough to execute his entire family. Yin Luofeng laughed evilly and said arrogantly, Since I, Yin Luofeng, dare to say such words, it means that I'm not afraid of the royal family. I don't know what it means to say that if the emperor wants a subject to die, the subject must die. I only know that whoever offends the Yun family will be executed. Chapter 154. The Ghost Emperor? Gao Ling raised his head in shock and his eyes widened, as if he had been frightened. His handsome face instantly turned pale. Did you say, the Ghost Emperor? Others may not know about the Ghost Emperor, but as the crown prince of the royal family, Gao Ling was well aware of the powers that were above the royal family. The Ghost Emperor was a legendary figure, and no one had ever seen his true face. It was said that he was extremely powerful and bloodthirsty. He could turn a city into ashes with a wave of his hand and trample millions of soldiers with a lift of his foot. Even the spiritual sect behind the royal family had to be wary of him. However, Gao Ling could not figure out when he had offended the Ghost Emperor and snatched his woman away. Suddenly, a possibility surfaced in Gao Ling's mind, and his expression darkened. Even though he had regretted his actions and wanted to save Yin Luofeng, he had only left the general's mansion for half an instance's time. Therefore, the Ghost Emperor's woman could not be that slut, Yin Luofeng. There was only one possibility. It had to be Mu Wushuang. He never thought that the Ghost Emperor would take a liking to Mu Wushuang. If that was the case, it would be troublesome for him to marry Mu Wushuang. Hero, a light flashed across Gao Ling's eyes as he asked, "Actually, the person that the Ghost Emperor hates is not me, but Yin Luofeng, who has humiliated the woman he loves." The gray-robed man was dumbfounded. He blinked his eyes in a daze. What did this guy mean by that? What does he mean by Yin Luofeng has humiliated the woman my master loves? Doesn't my master love Yin Luofeng? When has Yin Luofeng ever humiliated me? No matter what you say now, it's useless. The man in gray could not understand the meaning of this sentence, so he did not say anything more. He sneered at Gao Ling. Chun Yang has been in dire need of manpower recently. With your soft and tender skin, I'm sure you'll be able to earn a fortune for her. Bang! This time, without giving Gao Ling any chance to react, the man in gray raised his elbow and slammed it into Gao Ling's forehead. Gao Ling's vision blurred and he lost consciousness. Who told you to try and take liberties with my future, madam? The man in gray kicked Gao Ling's back and spat angrily. Is Lady Yin someone that a good-for-nothing like you can dream of? What's so great about a crown prince? How dare you order Miss Yin to treat your illness? I didn't expect my master to listen to Miss Yin. If I let you order Miss Yin around, wouldn't that mean that my master's status isn't as noble as yours? The more the gray-robed man thought about it, the angrier he became. He kicked Gao Ling even harder. If not for the fact that his master did not want others to know his identity, he would have already announced that Yin Luofeng was the future wife of the Ghost Emperor. She wanted to see how these shameless people would pester her now. The last kick landed on Gao Ling's crotch. The intense pain caused Gao Ling's body to tremble, and he almost woke up. Unfortunately, he didn't wake up and was knocked out again by the gray-robed man. If it wasn't for Master wanting to spare your life for now, I would have already dismembered you into 1,000 pieces. The gray-robed man snorted coldly. He swiftly put Gao Ling into a sack and slung it over his shoulder. Then, he quickly flew away. The bamboo building was similar to the medical pavilion. Every country had a station. However, the influence of the two forces was completely different. Of these two parties, one focused on medical skills, while the other focused on having fun. Oh, I was wondering who it was today. It's actually young Master Qin. Chapter 155. Dressed in a long, jade-green dress, she gracefully walked down the stairs. This was an extremely beautiful woman. Her seductiveness was different from Feng Ye's. Compared to Feng Ye's enchanting appearance, this woman was more of a flirt. She was naturally seductive, and when she raised her hand, it made people feel that she was intentionally seducing them. Only women who often hung out in romantic places would have this kind of seductive attitude. The corner of the man's forehead twitched, and he shook his head helplessly. When you're facing me, can you put away your seductiveness? No wonder my master doesn't like you. Chun Yang's expression stiffened for a moment. She took a deep breath, and her pair of romantic eyes contained a hint of resentment. Your master is truly unreasonable. I only wanted to follow him, but he refused me without even thinking about it. In any case, I, Chun Yang, have managed such a large bamboo building, but he didn't give me any face. My master doesn't accept female subordinates. It's not like you don't know this. Furthermore, your bamboo building is such a place. It would be strange if my master would take a liking to it. Qin Yuan looked at her with disdain. This woman managed a romantic place. How could master not hate her? Based on her, she still wanted to follow master? Master probably couldn't even be bothered to look at her. I know that your master hates women, but this bamboo building of mine is a business between men. Your master shouldn't be this disgusted. Chun Yang knitted her willowy eyebrows. You don't understand? Qin Yuan said mockingly. My master has kept his chastity for so many years just to wait for his future wife. Now that he has found the target he wants to pursue, he didn't hesitate to put down all his dignity and willingly become her bodyguard. Chun Yang's eyes lit up. Are you serious? There's really a woman who can accept your master? I'm very curious about who that woman is. Unfortunately, I've always thought of your master as a homosexual. Moreover, I'm planning to draw him and another man in my sketchbook. Qin Yuan's face darkened. Chun Yang, on account of our many years of friendship, let me give you a warning. If you dare to draw my master and another man, my master will definitely kill you. However, if you draw him and his future wife, maybe my master will be happy and let you go to Long Yuan Nation to serve his wife. Of course, don't count on becoming my master's subordinate. Actually, Qin Yuan was just casually saying these words. Who would have thought that Chun Yang would actually take it seriously? She unconsciously fell into deep thought. A woman who could subdue a ghost emperor must be very domineering. In that case, who would go up and who would go down? This problem needed to be carefully considered. Chun Yang, I'm here today to give you something. Qin Yuan recalled the events of today. He threw the gunny sack on his shoulder onto the ground. At that moment, the gunny sack loosened and an unconscious youth appeared in front of Madame Chun's eyes. Looking at the youth's fair and handsome face, Madame Chun's eyes lit up once again. This time, the goods are really not bad. Soft skin and tender flesh. I reckon that we can sell them for a good price. Qin Yuan raised the corners of his lips. This fellow is the crown prince of Long Yuan Nation. He had delusions of pestering my future wife and had offended my master. So I've sent him to you to enjoy 3 months. Within these 3 months, find me a few hundred strong men to serve him. After 3 months, throw him back to Long Yuan Nation. Also, my future wife doesn't like people interfering with her matters. In the future, you must never reveal that my master had asked you to do this. Otherwise, I won't be able to protect you. Chapter 156. Hearing this, Chun Yang shuddered. It was obvious that she was terrified of the man who was known as the Ghost Emperor. Don't worry, I'll take good care of him. Chun Yang regained her senses and gritted her teeth. This guy can offend anyone, but he even dares to offend the Ghost Emperor's woman. He must be tired of living. I'll let him receive guests tonight. He must receive 100 guests every day before he can rest. Qin Yuan nodded. Chun Yang, you should thank me. This crown prince is not bad looking, and it's his first time selling himself. I'm sure you'll earn a lot of money. Hee. Chun Yang giggled and winked at Qin Yuan. Thank you, young Master Qin. If you have such good stuff in the future, you must send it to me. To thank you, I'll never draw you with another man in my sketchbook ever again. Qin Yuan's face darkened once again. Every time he thought of this woman drawing him with another man, he would feel the urge to explode in anger. Who asked him to befriend such a perverted woman when he was young and immature? It was too late for regrets now. After Mu Xingqiu and his grandson pleaded guilty, another major event happened in Long Yuan country. On the day after Mu Xingqiu and his grandson pleaded guilty, Crown Prince Gao Ling disappeared. The citizens of Long Yuan country thought that Gao Ling had been provoked by Mu Wuxuan and felt that he had loved the wrong person all this while. Hence, he chose to hide out of humiliation. Because of this, Mu Wuxuan did not dare to appear in public and sealed himself in the Prime Minister's residence. Only Yin Luofeng knew that this matter had something to do with Yin Xiao. Only Yin Luofeng would have the motive to attack Gao Ling. However, Yin Luofeng did not question Yin Zhao's actions. She pretended not to know anything and began to cultivate every day until nightfall. Fortunately, her tireless cultivation was also successful, and her cultivation was advancing by leaps and bounds in the backyard of the general's residence. Yin Luofeng frowned and looked at the young girl walking in front of him. He asked in confusion, "Feng, where are you taking me?" The young girl slowly turned her head and smiled evilly. "You'll know when we get there. Now prepare yourself. I have a big surprise for you. Surprise? Yun Luo's old face glowed with pride. You little girl, did you fill up my treasury again? Ha ha! My granddaughter is more capable. Quick, take me to the treasury. Ever since he learned about his granddaughter's medical skills, the old man was no longer as thrifty as before. He desperately began to spend money. Anyway, many people would send money to his house after he spent it all. It would be a waste if he didn't spend it. Anyway, the money was earned by his granddaughter. Shouldn't he be filial to the old man? Yun Luofeng's face was full of black lines. This surprise isn't in the silver treasury. You'll know once you come with me. No longer in the treasury? The old man frowned again. Since it wasn't money, what kind of surprise could it be? As he was thinking, the old man suddenly noticed that the girl in front of him had stopped. He couldn't help but be stunned. We've arrived? That's right. The young girl slowly turned her head and raised the corners of her lips in a demonic manner. It's been more than half a year since I established the Steel Flame Legion. Grandpa, it's time to show you my power. At the same time, I'll let you see someone. The surprise that this little girl was talking about was the Legion. The old man was stunned once again. This Legion had only been established for half a year, and it shouldn't have become very powerful. After all, no one knew the talents of the previous members better than he did. If that was the case, what did this little girl mean? Chapter 157. Seeing that the young girl had opened the entrance to the underground tunnel, Yun Luo returned to his senses and followed Yun Luofeng down the stairs without any hesitation. Over the past 6 months, the old man had not come to the underground training ground, so as not to disturb Yun Luofeng's interest. Now, when he saw how luxurious the training ground was, he was completely shocked. The enormous training ground was divided into a few rings. These rings were constructed in a strict and dignified manner. From afar, it gave off a sense of grandeur. Other than that, there were countless houses for people to stay in the training ground. It was warm in the winter and cool in the summer. It was very comfortable. Little girl, how big a hole did you dig? Why didn't you notice anything when you dug such a big training ground? The old man looked at Yun Luofeng in shock. He found it hard to believe that this little girl had dug such a big hole without anyone noticing. A project like this could not have been completed without a few months. It's all thanks to this little fella's help. Yun Luofeng smiled devilishly. Just as she finished speaking, a little head peeked out from her sleeve. Its big and adorable eyes scanned the surroundings before stopping on Yun Luofeng, and it squeaked twice. This is a gold-seeking rat. The old man was even more shocked. And it's a low-rank, high spiritualist at that. Impossible. Gold-seeking rats were the most useless of spiritual beasts. It was said that they would never be able to break through to an intermediate beginner spiritualist. So how could they become a high spiritualist? Could it be that he'd been wrong all this while? It just broke through to become a high spiritualist yesterday. Yun Luofeng gently stroked Milk Tea's little head and raised the corners of his lips. Of course, this little fella isn't a surprise for you. I brought you here today mainly to let you meet someone. At that moment, a voice suddenly rang out from behind, causing the puzzled old man's body to stiffen. Father, you're here? The old man turned his head stiffly. Suddenly, a handsome and elegant face appeared in front of him. Chinya, weren't you at the back of the mountain? Why are you here at the training ground? Also your leg. It was only at this moment that Yun Luo suddenly realized that the man in front of him wasn't sitting on the wheelchair, but was standing in front of him. His legs were very straight, and his body was tall and slender. His handsome face no longer had its usual sadness and was replaced by a confident smile. Just like the talented young man who had swept the entire Long Yuan nation 10 years ago. What's going on? The old man's voice trembled slightly. You two tell me, what happened? Grandfather. Yun Luofeng looked at Yun Xingya and slowly walked in front of the old man. He smiled and said, Actually, half a year ago, I had already helped second uncle recover from his injuries. However, because he had been paralyzed for 10 years, he couldn't walk like an ordinary person and had to learn to walk from the beginning. That's why I didn't tell you about this matter. Now that second uncle can move freely, it's time for me to tell you everything. The old man's entire body trembled. The gaze he used to look at Yin Qingya turned from shock to excitement. Then, he suddenly thought of something and turned around. He grabbed Yin Luofeng's clothes and shouted angrily, "You damn girl! What else are you hiding from me? Hurry up and tell me everything." Chapter 158. At this moment, the old man was furious. He glared angrily at Yin Luofeng, as if he wanted to tear the other party apart and eat him alive. In the eyes of those who didn't know better, they would think that this girl was his enemy. Yin Luofeng looked at the old man's hand that was holding onto her clothes and raised his eyebrows. "I haven't told you yet. My second uncle has already become the commander of the Iron Man Legion. For the past 6 months, he has been helping me train these people. Other than that, what else?" The old man snorted unhappily. This girl had really hidden a lot of things from him in the past half a year. She hadn't even told her that Qingya's leg had been cured. How could this not make the old man angry? Unfortunately, he couldn't bear to hit her, so he could only roar a few times to vent the unwillingness in his heart. "This," Yin Luofeng said guiltily, "you'll know when you see the people of the Iron Flame Legion." As he spoke, a series of neat and uniform footsteps came from behind him. It was as if they were trained soldiers, and it immediately attracted the old man's attention. The old man let go of the girl in his hand and turned to look at the people who were marching over. When he saw the dignified figures of those people, his eyes were filled with shock. These people are the useless trash who were like mud half a year ago. This group of people were soldiers who had received formal training. They were not inferior to the royal army. But half a year ago, they were just a group of trash at the bottom. It's all thanks to second uncle's good training. Yin Luofeng raised the corner of her lips. Under the leadership of her second uncle, the Iron Man Legion had gradually grown up, and the Flame Legion was not bad either. Even she was surprised by the achievements and perseverance of these people. Yin Qingya smiled. Her handsome eyes were filled with gentleness as she looked at Yin Luofeng. "No, my training is only a supplementary effect. The real reason why these people have grown up is because of Feng'er. If it wasn't for the marrow cleansing medicine and spirit gathering medicine that Feng'er took out, they wouldn't have grown so quickly." At first, Yin Luo only noticed the tenacity of these people. Now that he heard Yin Qingya's words, he used his mental strength to probe the strength of these people. When he felt the power of the entire army, the old man was dumbfounded. He stood there like a tree stump. How was this possible? The imperial family had also probed the talents and foundations of these people. None of them would be able to break through to the rudimentary, intermediate spiritualist stage in their lifetime. Now, everyone in the army had become intermediate spiritualists, and a few of them had even broken through to advanced spiritualists. His strength was equal to that of a general like him. One had to know that the most powerful person in Long Yuan country was only a high spiritual warrior. Therefore, if Yin Luofeng brought out the strength of this legion, it would surely cause an intense wave of shock. Perhaps even the people behind the royal family would be lured out. "Feng, tell me, how did you do it?" The old man slowly turned to look at Yin Luofeng. One could imagine how shocked he was. These people's aptitudes are very low, so how did you help them become advanced spiritualists? Yin Luofeng smiled disapprovingly. Her eyes were filled with confidence. "I've said it before, I don't choose people based on talent. Even if they are trash, I can turn them into geniuses. As for the marrow cleansing liquid, it could cleanse one's marrow and bones and reforge one's innate talent. If they can't even break through under such conditions, then there's no need for me to form this army."